Act 4:1, Sorcerer of the Demonic Forest. Act 4, Prayer in the Holy City, Heinztier. Chapter 1, Sorcerer of the Demonic Forest. There was a savage place in the hinterland of Region Kingdom. The extreme magical power spot that twisted the place had given birth to one powerful monster after another. It was by no means a place for humans. That was why it was the perfect hiding spot for people who lived in seclusion. Nevertheless, that only applied to the people who were powerful enough to defeat the strong monsters inhabiting the land. But, the sea forest that occupied 1/8 of Regos Kingdom's territory, Great Forest of Man-Eating Demon Shad, became the prime example, especially around the center of that forest where the concentration of mana was the thickest. It had become the most dangerous place in Regos Kingdom. The adventurers only dared to go around the outer part of the forest to hunt. No one dared to venture deep into the forest to meet trolls, the namesake of the forest. There was a sorcerer who set their base deep in the center of that great forest of man-eating demons. His name was Real. He had been living for more than 150 years, and he already considered himself to have transcended humanity. It was already in the past. Now he remodeled the tomb of the king of the Forgotten Kingdom from 1,000 years ago as his hiding place. Inside the grave, there was a tall and transparent crystal tube on top of the altar. Inside the tube was the severed head of an old man, floating inside the blue liquid. That head was Real. Each room in this gloomy grave was guarded by the undead that he prepared. Real's madness came from the fear of true death. An eternal slumber would eventually come to visit everyone in this world without exception. That was the principle of this world. Thus, he who feared the coming of such eternal solitude decided to seal his ego and sleep forever in this place. He wanted to live for eternity, undisturbed by anything. A woman ascended the stairway of the altar on which Real was sleeping. After she arrived in front of him, she fell to her knees like a broken doll and looked at Real with a vacant gaze. "I'm bringing the usual report, Real-sama." His subordinate was the human whom he brainwashed. It was an undead. He captured the humans who wandered into the forest and used the first captured human as bait to capture another human. That was how he increased the number of his subordinates. There were 200 humans who became his subordinates. If it were another era, that number would easily surpass 4 digits. Solving the brainwash spell itself wasn't that difficult. The effect would disappear if another spell were cast on them. It would also naturally disappear after they underwent medical treatment. But Real didn't wish any burden on the brains of the brainwashed people, so he engraved a magic circle of memory erasure to prevent the disclosure of his information. Even if the brainwashing were to be cancelled, the victim wouldn't be able to adapt to normal life that easily. After the fall of the Ainsi's underground labyrinth, the events that were seemingly caused by the witch Domiliun have never happened again. I thought that witch wouldn't kick the bucket that easily, but I guess that's the effect of delving deeper into the truth. She might be confident in her abilities, but in the end, the way she erected her nest so proudly right in the middle of a big city was her downfall. Real expressed his thoughts upon hearing the woman's report. The 8 wise men of Devil's Piper such as Laughing Clown and the Spinner of the Truth have also died following the commotion in Teutoburg. We examined the location, but alas, we got nothing at all. The church should have already dealt with them. Following the death of Ugly Corpse Old Man, that means that 3 of the 8 wise men have already died. Not to mention that amongst those 4, the Spinner of the Truth was an old-timer. Real spoke with a dumbfounded voice. After that, there has been no new information about Queen and Knight who just joined the 8 wise men. They don't seem to be acquaintances with the other 8 wise men, either. Their existence might be nothing more than a hoax. Considering that fact, it means that there are only 4 left. They became more active as of late, but maybe they will lay low for a while after losing 4 of their members. Those people chose to back down. I guess there's no new information. That's enough. You may leave. No, actually, there's another piece of information. Before the woman left, she went closer to the tube where Real was. What? Hey, I said that's enough. If you get any closer, I'll erect a magic circle to prevent you from approaching me next time. Stop. The woman's expressionless face changed. She squinted her eyes, the tips of her lips rose up. Undead, kill this woman. Their warriors whose bodies were covered in rotten meat and waiting in separate places rushed at once toward the woman. She was pinned down immediately and beheaded, ending her life in mere seconds, or so it was supposed to be. The woman's eyes were turbid, and red fluid flowed out from the blood vessels in her eyes. It kept flowing out instead of stopping, with her body as the center. A huge magic circle appeared on the altar. The undead fell into that place, raising agonizing voices while dragging their bodies on the floor. What in the go. The liquid in the tube which kept Real's head suddenly transformed from transparent blue to black sludge. Real, who experienced an unspeakable pain, opened his eyes wide in shock. Why? What's happening? People clad in black robes appeared in front of the agonized Real. All of them wore the same attire, but only the short girl who stood in front of the group showed her face. Even then, there was a cloth covering the girl's eyes, the symbol of Heinz Church stitched on the cloth. The robe was obviously too big for the girl, and as a result, her limbs weren't long enough for the oversized robe. Her eccentric appearance was even more noticeable than her cute, blonde twinkles. It's a barrier that disturbs magical power. Though I hear from Johan that the hyenas might come after confirming the situation in Tietenberg, who would expect that we would catch an even bigger fish instead? Oops, my apologies for the late introduction. My name is Filippo of the Four Great Sages, the Bishop of Heinz Church entrusted with the Inquisition Squad. The technique used by Filippo was one that used a human sacrifice to disturb the magical power inside a barrier. Though it was a spell that needed a lot of magical power, since the magical power of the sacrifice who was given the inscription of magic formation would be sucked up till they were nothing more than a dried-up corpse. It could display its utmost potential even if the sacrifice was someone who couldn't use spells. On top of placing a barrier that inhibited the activation of magical power, the addition of magical power disturbance by the human sacrifice made it even harder to manipulate magic. Although the use of spells that siphoned the magical power of others was banned, in this chaotic situation, Filippo was the only one in the current Tritos kingdom who could use spells freely in this situation. Since Real was only focused on the sorcery that was maintaining his life, disturbing the flow of magical power was enough to kill him. Originally, he wasn't the kind of person who would allow others to approach him so carelessly, but he made a fatal mistake, namely, overestimating his brainwashing spell. Rewriting complex sorcery was Filippo's forte. You cursed fanatics. You actually used a sacrifice to kill me. Doing so means you're the same kind of lunatic as me. No, in my case, I won't go as far as being completely merciless. This is salvation for them. She fell as a martyr. She will enter paradise in the afterlife and become an angel. Filippo replied calmly without any semblance of hesitation. Seeing Real was at a loss for words, Filippo continued on. And we have you, a cruel murderer who killed numerous people meaninglessly. But don't worry, for I shall give you salvation too. After saying so, Filippo turned toward her subordinates who were waiting silently behind her. Let's start with 2. We'll send him to the afterlife. Please take care of this old man till the end. Without treatment, he will survive for at least 3 days, albeit filled with suffering. Real had no idea what Filippo was talking about. That's right. Let's clean him up a bit of his crime before sending him to hell. He's a big sinner, but it's not a reason for us to hate him. Real was even more dumbfounded. Even he who had lived for more than 150 years, had no idea that the church had actually raised this kind of monster. Her train of thought was alien even for a sorcerer like him. The rest of you, follow me. Even if they're just victims of his evil deeds, it's our duty to give them salvation. Real became even more astonished upon hearing such an ominous remark. After all, removing his brainwashing spell wasn't that difficult. Although it would burden the brain and partially erase their memories, it wasn't life-threatening. And yet, contrary to her gentle tone, the salvation she spoke of was by no means releasing his victims from his brainwashing spell. Starting from this day, after more than 100 years, the missing case of adventurers or acquaintances who entered Great Forest of Man-Eating Demons mysteriously stopped. Nevertheless, no one knew the truth behind the incident, nor did they get a proper explanation from the government. The mysterious grave in the center of the forest collapsed for an unknown reason, and no one knew the whereabouts of the hundreds of people who were missing in the forest prior to this day. Act 4-2, Visiting the Holy City 1. Chapter 2, Visiting the Holy City 1. After escaping from Viscount Legale's territory, Lambert visited another noble's territory. His goal was to buy information from an information broker. According to the information broker, the kingdom seemed to have detained Viscount Legale's relatives for questioning, But then, everyone was assassinated before they could be interrogated. Although one of them managed to escape, he was apparently killed soon after. He was assassinated before his destination. Either way, none of the Viscount's relatives were spared, but it has once again tarnished the Kingdom Army's reputation. Lambert was speaking face to face with the middle-aged shopkeeper in an old store. The man's name was Leon. On the surface, he was a general store owner, but his real job was as an information broker. It might be the deed of those extremists from the church, Leon added in a low voice. The Inquisition Squad, right? Leon frowned slightly upon hearing Lambert's remark. It's better not to say that name aloud. But, yes, it's them. The Mad Dog was raised by Cardinal Zebedee. They're the most terrifying people in this world. Honestly speaking, even Devil's Piper has a better reputation than those guys. Ah, I see. But they're supposed to be the final shield that protects this kingdom from Devil's Piper, right? Ain't even close to that. Well, don't ask for my judgment if you want to know whether they're good or bad. Honestly, I don't care. Have you heard the rumors about Zebedee? They will even ask a stone if they can't find a piece of evidence. They might be not that bad. Are you surprised that they can make even a stone speak? Leon said with a surprised look on his face. How do I meet that Zebedee? Don't ask such foolish questions. We've no intention to play along with your joke. The information that you want is about Viscount Gale or Devil's Piper. Well, I am just slightly interested in the church. How much does it cost for Zebedee's information? I don't mind the price. Lambert took out his purse and placed it on top of the desk. It was stuffed full of gold coins. Armored man, it seems you really earn money by helping the weak guilds. But why do you want to know so much about Cardinal Zebedee? You're not trying to cause some sort of riot, right? You've met that person, right? What? Leon frowned and asked Lambert. I want to know the essence of the Inquisition Squad. That's why I must meet Zebedee. Although Leon was dumbfounded for a while after he heard that remark, seeing Lambert's state, he knew that the other party wasn't joking. Thus, he coughed to clear his throat and looked seriously at Lambert again. Currently, Cardinal Zebedee is in the holy city of Heinztia. In fact, he's one of the most influential figures over there. But I won't recommend you meet him. Even if you really wanted to meet him, you should wait for him to leave Heinztia. Why though? You seriously don't know about it? Listen, the holy city of Heinztia is the stronghold of the Inquisition Squad. You should have at least guessed that the moment you decided to meet Cardinal Zebedee. And yet, you seriously never even considered that. Leon struck the desk with his fist, glaring angrily at Lambert. Heinz faith, the state religion of Regio's kingdom, worshipped Heinz, the one who proclaimed himself God's apostle 500 years ago. He led his disciple, traveled through the western part of Waremia, and preached to the people about equality and peace. The faith had three sacred locations: Heinz's birthplace, the mountain where he gained divine power, and the land where his disciple betrayed him. His birthplace had now turned into a metropolis and was also the headquarters of the religion. The mountain where he gained divine power became a huge monastery and training place for many believers. And then, the land where he was betrayed. It too became a huge city, but it was an isolated place for extremists. This place was home to the stronghold of the Inquisition Squad, the holy city of Heinztia. Normally, there were 4 people, a bishop and 3 direct subordinates who acted as supervisors of Heinztia. They were called the 4 Great Pillars, and above them, there was Cardinal Zebedee, who acted as their superior and supporter. Once you go there to meet the cardinal and begin snooping around, I just imagine you being captured by the Inquisition Squad. That place isn't right for that kind of joke or prank. You're not the type to address people with honorifics, so it's bound to happen. I see, that's convenient. Are you insane? That Inquisition Squad has caught my interest. Moreover, I think Devil's Piper will target the Inquisition Squad in the near future. Thus, by the order of priority, I know that I must do this. The forbidden sorcery organization Devil's Piper was clearly aiming for places with great war potential such as Barra City, the capital of adventurers. There was also the situation during which they tempted the nobles in the kingdom to join their side. And once the kingdom's power weakened, their next plan was to overthrow the government. There were 2 of the 8 wise men managing the facility in Tietenberg, not to mention that the organization had also suffered from a critical lack of manpower after Lambert destroyed Angel of Death, the branch guild of Devil's Piper. Originally, There was a long-standing relationship between the Inquisition Squad and Devil's Piper. Maybe they were going to hide for a while if their aim was to get the Inquisition Squad and the strongest sorcerer squad of the kingdom to let their guard down, weakening them in the process. He had a rough guess, but he needed more evidence since there was barely any information about Devil's Piper since they never appeared in public. As long as he had no idea where they were going to target next, he would go somewhere else. He had business. Thus, he had enough reason to go to the holy city of Heinztia. If what you said is true, things are going to get really hectic in the near future. The Inquisition Squad, the worst and the most wicked sorcerer organization in the kingdom, and the forbidden sorcery organization Devil's Piper will clash in the holy city. When that happens, not even the rats will survive to tell the tale. That's why I must go there. Moreover, I've another guess aside from that. There's no doubt about your strength. I've even heard rumors about a really strong dude coming to this city, namely, you. But in my opinion, you're no more than an ignorant man with a reckless sense of justice. You're going to die over there. This is a warning from me. But you're definitely going to be killed by the Inquisition Squad if you keep using that kind of speech. You're not an idiot, right? You're going to see true hell on earth over there. Act 4-3. Visiting the Holy City 2. Chapter 3, Visiting the Holy City 2. This is the Holy City of Heinztia. This place didn't even exist 200 years ago, Lambert muttered as he passed under the huge stone gate. Even during the war, this land had always been Regos Kingdom's territory, so it wasn't regarded as anything special, although Lambert thought it was only natural since during the peak of the Eight Countries Unification War, there was nothing like a special city that could become a prime target for the neighboring kingdom. Lambert decided to take a stroll to feel the situation of the city first. The buildings in the holy city of Heinztia were made from white stone, each one lined up next to the other. Many people wore robes with the symbol of the Heinz faith stitched to the part that covered their eyes. Aside from those people, others literally wore subdued colors, not one wearing gaudy clothes. The atmosphere in the city was rather subdued, or, to be honest, it was gloomy. When he stopped and looked around, he found that there were at least 3 angel or saint statues. Although his previous evaluation of the city was bad due to the rumors, he couldn't bring himself to hate the city structures themselves. Excuse me, the person over there. Are you by chance Swordsman Sama? When he turned around to see the one who called out to him, the other party turned out to be a young woman. She had reddish-brown hair, which was covered by a pea-green scarf. Her thin and slender figure was really obvious from her mantle. The string, chicken-like instrument in her hands looked bigger than it should be thanks to her small frame. She wore gaudy attire, which made her stand out like a sore thumb. Her faded eyes narrowed. The movement of her eyes was rather awkward. He knew that it was her attempt to show her emotion. The woman's name was Alvana, the blind minstrel who met Lambert in the forest around the vicinity of Barra City. What a coincidence to meet here. So it's really you, Swordsman Sama? No, I almost thought that I had mistaken you for someone else. That's why I tried to confirm it. I mean, I might not be able to recognize you by the sound of your footsteps alone if anyone else wearing the same armor as you. I don't think you'll meet another person like me. After that, Lambert somehow ended up strolling around the city along with Alvana. Note: Alvana is the minstrel he met in Act 2. Since Lambert was poorly informed about the recent situation of the holy city of Heinztia or Heinz faith, he asked Alvana this and that, supplementing that with the old information that he knew about the Heinz faith. In short, this place has also become more open-minded compared to a long time ago. Although I can't deny that many people are still afraid of this land, people like me who want to simply enjoy the cityscape or mysterious statues aren't that rare. Some even become zealous believers after feeling something from it. Although some say that the Inquisition Squad is like a parasite inside the Heinz faith, their antipathy isn't that much nowadays. Especially lately, there has been an explosive influx of new believers. I see. Nevertheless, we might die if we enter some sort of secret place by accident. Some even speculate that the innermost room of the old church has become the place for human experimentation or to safekeep a forbidden grimoire. Those are probably all empty rumors, however. Since the top brass of the church backs them up, not even the kingdom can complain about the Inquisition Squad. However, The ones who are supposed to manage this area are the bishop and the 4 great sages who act as their aides. It isn't that different since Cardinal Zebediah acts as their direct superior. Though, it's not like he stays here all year long. Sorry for asking so many questions. No problem. I'm already feeling honored to have you ask those questions. I mean, I managed to raise a lot of money thanks to the song about swordsman's armor. Man, that song was really popular. The whole downtown was literally dyed by swordsman's armor's motif. After that, people would automatically come to listen to my song as long as I sang in the correct place. TL, she's talking about the aftermath of Act 2. Alvana covered her lips as she giggled. Many of Alvana's gestures seemed quite unnatural, but that was something that Lambert had already known since the first time they met. But this is truly a coincidence. I never expected to see such a familiar face in this kind of place. Maybe your goal is still the same as last time. Alvana spoke while sticking out her tongue as if trying to tease Lambert. By the way, I came to this city because I thought that I might get some sort of inspiration. Swordsman's armor, why are you here? Lambert looked around. He didn't want to bring unwanted hostility due to a slip. Although there was no problem if he was only by himself, he would definitely involve Alvana this time. Yes, it's for a confirmation. I came to inquire about the Inquisition Squad. That's my one and only goal this time. Alvana's mouth opened lightly as if she was slightly dumbfounded by Lambert's remark. Her eyes didn't move at all when she was really surprised. That's definitely going to be another big event. Or should I say that it does sound like what you're going to do, swordsman's armor. Well, with so many dark rumors about the Inquisition Squad flying around, it can't be helped. But one of the reasons why those people who want to topple the kingdom have hidden around for so long is precise because they're afraid of the Inquisition Squad. And it's not like they did such brutal acts for no reason either. Yeah, I can see that. That's why I want to see it with my own eyes. I definitely have to meet Cardinal Zebediah. I want to hear straight from his mouth about his ideals when running the organization. Ha ha ha. I see. Surely, that sounds like a joke. But I know that Swordsman's armor is someone who will do as he says. Alvana laughed while covering her lips. But well, that must be difficult, right? I mean, to achieve that goal, you have to either break into the cathedral, stop his carriage, or interrupt the festival, right? All will incite the Inquisition Squad's rage. I see. I didn't consider the option of standing before his carriage. Somewhere like a festival with so many eyewitnesses might be a better choice than the cathedral. I shall use that as a reference. You're not going to do that, right? But well, if you want to do that, this Alvana will do her best to help you. I'll make sure that the future generation knows what you did and the reasons behind your actions. Act 4 Visiting the Holy City 3. Chapter 4 Visiting the Holy City 3. He could finally see the cathedral when he arrived at the center of the holy city of Heinztier. The image of an angel was carved on its wall, and the statue of a bird spreading its wings was carved on top of the pointed roof. The ornate designs could only be described as the pinnacle of art. What a splendid cathedral. That's already a castle in itself. I hear it does look like that. Too bad that I can't see it with my own eyes. Thanks to its high walls, it's hard to see inside unless you're an authorized person of the church. But still, it doesn't change the majestic appearance of its front gate. Alvana replied to Lambert's remark. Lambert, who couldn't apply to go inside, decided to take a closer look at the cathedral. Swordsman's armor, you're not thinking about breaking through from the front door, right? I mean, if you really do that, I'll have no choice but to act as if I don't know you and escape as far as possible. What are you talking about? I won't do that. I just want to gather as much information as possible for the time being. I see. Or should I say, thank God you're far more level-headed than I thought. Sorry to say this, but I couldn't help but think that you really were going to do that from your muttering. I will only break through from the front if there really is no other way around. As expected, you'll still do that if there really is no other way. Alvana spoke with a cramped smile on her face. Or rather, what are you planning by following me this far? Well, I simply have nothing to do, so I chose to follow you. If I have to say it, staying by Swordsman Sama's side is the best choice since my original goal was to gain inspiration. Normally, I'd move around while performing to gather traveling funds to gain more inspiration, but this is the Holy City. A wrong choice of song can literally send me straight to the gallows. I mean, Not even I am brave enough to try to gain inspiration by being chased around by the Inquisition squad." Alvana's body twitched as she spoke. The number of people around them increased as they got closer to the center of the cathedral. Lambert thought that there were so many people going in and out of the cathedral, but upon closer inspection, that didn't seem to be the case. He happened to overhear the conversation of 3 followers of Hein's faith who were walking around him. "Family aside, don't you think that it's a little bit too much to involve all of their relatives? Why are they investigating so much? Those guys have been led astray by the devil. They're the devils that will bring this kingdom to ruin. The devil's blood shall be exterminated." Hearing that, Lambert went forward immediately. There was a large crowd forming right in front of the cathedral. There was a huge stand surrounded by numerous sorcerers from the Inquisition squad. Standing on top of the stand was a man with a bizarre appearance. The man was missing both of his arms and was covered in bandages from head to toe. To describe his head, it was a ball without a nose, hair, or ears. Surrounding him were puppet-like monsters with heads more akin to cavernous holes and wax-like wings protruding from their backs. They were spirits from the realm of light, and there were 4 of them. Each spirit had a sword in its hand. Lambert only needed a glance to understand what had happened. After all, he had heard about the man during his preliminary investigation. The name of the armless man was Matai. He was one of the 4 great sages who was supposed to protect the holy city of Heinztia. According to Lambert's information, Matai could summon numerous spirits of light, and if he went all out, that number could cross 100. He knew immediately what the man did. Right beneath the stand was mangled corpses that had been chopped to bits by the spirits. Mangled was perhaps an understatement. They were so finely chopped to the point they almost looked like mincemeat. It was impossible to tell which body part belonged to whom. But there were at least dozens of people in there. At the edge of the stand, a handcuffed woman whose head was covered in a hewn bag stood before the spirits. The strangest thing about the current situation was the fact that no one raised an objection or averted their gaze upon seeing such a gruesome situation. "What the?" Alvana, who followed Lambert from behind, had finally stopped right behind him, trying to adjust her ragged breath. "I heard the rumors. That should be Baron Diberto's family." Some of the nobles have also voiced their criticism toward the actions of the Inquisition squad. And the Inquisition squad has long since viewed those guys as a problem. That's why they crushed the barony, since they are of low status and no one around was willing to protect them. It is also a threat from them directed to the nobles with higher status. They're willing to go that far. Lambert had also heard from the information broker that they went so far as to punish the nobles who criticized the church. But he was still a bit skeptical about that information until he saw it with his own eyes and heard it from Alvana herself. So convenient. Executing the nobles who dare to criticize them will prevent more from doing the same. Lambert also asked various things before coming to this city, such as how feared were the Inquisition squad. He expected them to eliminate nobles who criticized them in secret, only to discover that they did it in broad daylight. He smelled a conspiracy. Something like dragging the low-rank nobles to this city to be executed and spreading false rumors to keep the higher-rank nobles in check. It was as if they wanted to say that no one could stop them, not even the nobles. "Let's go, Swordsman Sama. I hate the smell of blood. There's nothing to gain here. Let's continue our exploration tomorrow. Now, it is time to execute the last devil." "Oh, angels, chop this sinner starting from the place away from the heart, be it the tip of her hands or feet. Let her know the ultimate pain in this world," Matai shouted. The spirits from the realm of light then raised their swords. "Thank you for sparing some of your time to guide me here, Alvana." Lambert ran forward after he said this. Wait, Swordsman Sama. "Stop." Lambert shook off Alvana's hand that was trying to stop him, pushing his way through the crowd in the blink of an eye. The Inquisition squad members stationed around the platform tightened their formation the moment they saw Lambert approaching. "Oh fire! Too slow." The cooperation of the members of the Inquisition squad was perfect, but it was far from enough to stop Lambert. The Inquisitors were thrown in the air even before they managed to finish their aria. Just like that, Lambert jumped on the wooden platform and landed right next to the girl whose head was covered, standing between her and the spirit of light. The wooden platform let out a loud creaking sound, perhaps because it was unable to bear the weight of Lambert's armor. "A new devil has appeared. Oh angel, make that devil suffer." The moment Matai ordered this, The spirits of light rushed toward Lambert while swinging their swords. "Fool! The devil who dares to stand before me is the one who will die. Out of my way!" The next moment, the four spirits were each sliced into 3 pieces, falling to the platform and turning into particles of light as their bodies vanished. "Who the hell are you?" Matai asked with a trembling voice. Act 4-5, Visiting the Holy City 4. Chapter 5, Visiting the Holy City 4. There was an uproar in the plaza. One by one, the spectators started to flee. But since there were too many people gathered there, they ended up bumping into each other and forming a mess of fleeing figures. Matai leapt backwards, descending from the wooden platform. "Hey, you guys come down too. This fella is our enemy. It seems we can finish this quickly." Matai ordered his subordinates from the Inquisition squad. They bowed their heads and followed him. "Who the hell are you? Devil's Piper?" "No, they have no reason to march so boldly right in front of the cathedral. How dare you make a mess for no reason?" "You crazy bastard." "You're wrong. I have a reason, namely protecting the powerless daughter of a weak noble." "The crazy ones here are you." "What are you?" "So he really is a madman." Lambert glared at Matai, readying his great sword. "It seems you're quite capable, but it'll be troublesome if you misunderstand something here. I'm different from those small fry sorcerers." "You're going to die under the angel's blades," Matai shouted at Lambert. The binds around his mouth came undone, exposing his lipless mouth. "Heed my call and come from the realm of light." "Army of angelic knights, Fen Melkus." Another sword-wielding spirit of light appeared. Around 20 of them surrounded Lambert on the wooden platform. "Sure enough, you can talk big about dying to protect this little girl, and you're strong enough to accomplish that. Unfortunately, your opponent is me. We, the 4 great sages, are already beyond the reach of a mortal. No matter how talented you are, how long you can persist while besieged by this many angels." All of the spirits raised their swords at once as they rushed toward Lambert. "Well then, you cannot escape. The battle is all about numbers. No matter how fast you swing your sword, you're just a mere mortal. The moment you tire, another angel will kill you. You're free to escape from this place with that girl if you can do that, that is." The moment Matai said this, the spirit before him was bisected in half. Lambert went straight at him with his great sword in one hand and carrying the girl in the other arm. The spirits reacted a tad too late. By the moment they swung down their swords, Lambert had already charged forward. From Lambert's perspective, they seemed to move at a snail's pace. Impossible. Matai quickly jumped to the back, but Lambert's kick landed right on his abdomen during the jump. That kick and his jumping power sent him flying even further. He then rolled as he landed on the ground, causing a great impact on his head, abdomen, and waist. After his body stopped rolling on the road, Matai just barely managed to stand on his legs, albeit with difficulty. His injury wasn't fatal since most of the force behind Lambert's kick was cancelled out by the back jump. "Kill that devil." "No, that monster." Lambert had already escaped with the girl on his shoulder. If he felt like it, he could go back and kill Matai. But Lambert still lacked too much information about the Inquisition squad. Even though the public execution of the framed minor noble families had almost put them on his blacklist, he still had some reservations. He had only gathered information from an outsider and from his own perspective. The reason he made his move was to save the girl's life. However, he only saved her since he wanted to hear about the Inquisition squad from her own mouth. It was a give and take. He had yet to decide on how to pass judgment on the Inquisition squad. The main reason for that was simply because the Inquisition squad was the strongest organization in the kingdom that could stop Devil's Piper. Crushing it might be a detriment to the kingdom. Although Devil's Piper had numerous powerful sorcerers, the reason they didn't dare to show themselves too brazenly was simply because of the deterrence caused by the Inquisition squad. "Are you okay? Things might get rather rough for a while, but bear with it." Lambert spoke to the girl, but the other party didn't reply. But he knew that she was still alive from the slight movement of her body. Lambert kept running with the girl while knocking down the members of the Inquisition squad who chased after him. But even Lambert had a hard time escaping while protecting the girl in his arms. They destroyed one building after another, trying to stop Lambert by using the wreckage. "I guess I'm underestimating them, huh?" Suddenly, Alvana appeared from behind the corner ahead of Lambert. Alvana pointed at the open window of the building and nodded as if trying to convey something. Lambert chose to believe in her and jumped into the window. He took a landing posture to kill the sound of his landing, quickly shutting the curtains and hiding. There were already 7 people of various ages inside the building. Each looked dumbfoundedly at Lambert, who appeared out of nowhere. Guessing from Alvana's occupation, he expected that this house might be owned by her acquaintance or simply a vacant house, but he couldn't guess the relationship of the people in here. Since he saw people wearing hooded robes with Heinz faith symbols on the hoods among them, they were definitely related to the church, but something about them felt off. Who are you? Damn it. What's the meaning of this? They raised their canes, seething with bloodlust and ready to pounce. Lambert focused on the sound outside. He couldn't hear the sound of footsteps from the door. Alvana, who guided him to this place, seemed to escape in another direction. Lambert pondered for a while and then grabbed the hilt of the greatsword on his back. I know that my appearance has put you on guard, but it really can't be helped. Don't move, I'm gonna use this place as shelter for a while. Hey, is she the daughter of Baron Diberto? The man who stood in front of the group looked at the girl being carried by Lambert. The others were really surprised upon hearing that. After exchanging a glance, they nodded together and lowered their canes. I understand. You may hide here. But how did you know about this place? And how did you come with that girl in tow? I happened to pass by the execution place and couldn't bear to watch anymore, so I saved her. I've some question for her too. I am honestly confused with the way you say it. The Inquisition squad should be stationed around the execution place. Not to mention that Matai of 4 great sages also oversaw the execution. And according to your story, it's as if you managed to shake their pursuit. Moreover, the matter that you want to ask her shouldn't be able answered by her. Lambert was stupefied in hearing the strange way he spoke. Appearance-wise, he looked like the believer of Heinz faith, and yet, he didn't sound like someone who respected Matai, one of the people who protected this city. Although the first possibility that came into Lambert's mind was a rebel, it was too much of a coincidence. Why do you think this girl won't be able to answer my question? Take off the sack over her head first. Don't worry. We won't try to attack you. Lambert then carefully lowered the daughter of Baron Dibert to the ground, taking off the sack that covered her head. Then, he saw the tattoo of the Heinz faith on her forehead, and from her sunken eyelids, he knew that they had gouged out her eyeballs. Fresh blood still oozed out. It seemed her eyes were removed right before the execution. They also crushed her throat with poison. That's the modus operandi of the Inquisition squad. To prevent her from disclosing unnecessary information, they usually gouge their victims' eyeballs, crush their throat, and smash their eardrums. That's how they're presented at the execution platform. As cruel as ever. Lambert looked down at the girl again. He felt angry and helpless at the same time. And then, he punched the wall in silence. His punch literally shook the entire building, leaving behind a gaping hole in the wall. My apologies. Although the man looked really surprised by the power behind Lambert's punch, his stiffened face loosened a bit upon hearing Lambert's apology. I see, so you really came without knowing the situation. You ran all the way here after you saved that girl's life. You really are a good guy. But you're also really lucky to be able to get away from Matai. You might be strong, but you can't beat those creatures with brute strength. A brief silence ensued. And then, the man opened his mouth again. Do you remember how you got here? I was guided by my acquaintance, a woman named Alvana. Why are you all here? The man exchanged glances with his comrades and turned around to look at Lambert again. I understand. You can entrust that girl to us. We're going to look after her and escort her out of the city. We don't know how you saved that girl, but your appearance really stands out. It'll be impossible for you to escape with this girl in tow. Lambert felt something was amiss with that remark. This coincidence was too good to be true. In a normal situation, there was no way they could make such a snap decision to take care of a blind, unknown girl. Additionally, taking care of her was equivalent to making an enemy of the Inquisition squad. On top of having no idea how long this would take, a fate even more horrifying than death awaited them the moment they were captured. They probably hated the Inquisition squad of the Heinz faith. But if that was the case, they didn't have to base in this city, the headquarters of the Inquisition squad. Hey, don't decide such matter on your own. That person is the one who brought him. He said it himself, you know. Despite their small conflict, they seem to gather here for a reason. Are you by chance Alvano's acquaintance? Yes, we're acquainted. But if she doesn't tell you anything, you can't expect me to tell you more than this. Lambert wondered whether he should pursue this matter or not, but he decided to let it rest. Although Alvana seemed to keep some secrets from Lambert, he knew that she had guided him to this place purely for good intentions. Thus, he wouldn't overstep his bounds. I understand. I also have an urgent matter. Your willingness to take care of her is a great help, and I apologize for suddenly threatening you guys. I'll leave as soon as possible. Hearing Lambert say this, the man pondered for a while before opening his mouth. Let me give you a warning. I don't know what kind of regret you have, but you should leave this city as soon as possible. Something is about to happen. Act 4-6, Devil's Piper Regimentation. Chapter 6, Devil's Piper Regimentation. Currently, in the unused underground cellar of the Grand Cathedral, three figures had a secret meeting. The first person had a huge body clad in black armor. The second person was a short, lightly equipped woman. The third person was a tall and lanky man. Behind the scenes, preparations went according to the plan. The leader of our Devil's Piper, the Immortal King, has already finished the preparations to send the Mithril Giant to the royal capital. There's no need to make arrangements with more nobles. There has been unrest among our sponsors after Count Orbeck's and Viscount Legale's cases. The man with a huge body, clad in black armor, reported this to the other two. It was probably because of the armor. His deep tenor voice sounded like a devil's growl. The people of this kingdom are fools, but it doesn't change the fact that those madmen from the Inquisition squad are troublesome enemies. Though we can ignore those rabid dogs, if there's even a slight chance that can be used by this kingdom, we have to get rid of them before moving the Mithril Giant, thus ensuring our absolute victory. As such, the assassination of Cardinal Zebediah and the four great sages of the holy city of Heinstier is in fact our last job. They were members of the 8 wise men of Devil's Piper. The man in black armor was called Knight of Blood Mist. He was the right-hand man of the leader of Devil's Piper, the Immortal King. Since the formation of the organization, some rumors said that he had been living for hundreds of years. They planned to destroy the strongest sorcery organization in the kingdom, the Inquisition Squad, before they launched an all-out attack to topple Regio's kingdom. An average sorcerer would not stand a chance fighting against the Inquisition Squad members and would only die in vain. In addition, the Inquisition Squad could work as if they were a killing machine when compared to the sorcery of Devil's Piper, which was more lively. That was why, no matter how many second-rate sorcerers stood before them, they would be butchered like pigs by the Inquisition Squad. Not to mention that they lost a lot of sorcerers from their internal organization. The Angel of Death due to the incident in the territory of Viscount Legale. 4 of the 8 wise men of Devil's Piper will lead the attack. Unfortunately, my adorable bug will lead as the vanguard. They're far more useful than those second-rate sorcerers. After all, the lanky man spoke with a dumbfounded voice. He sat in an ancient-looking chair that looked like it was about to crumble while patting a huge bug around half meter wide. Well, do as you wish. I also think that you can do a much better job than those people. Both of us are immortal, after all. The problem is, will the Queen and Knight come? Even an old veteran like me has never seen them before. They really are sloppy. Don't say that, Gu. They are just whimsical, and not the brightest if I have to add. They did come to this city, but I doubt they will aid us. But their combat prowess rivals that of us here. Don't put me on the same level as those people. Honestly, I'm fed up with those cheeky brats called Ugly Corpse Old Man and Laughing Clown. Look at them, crushed like bugs, ain't it? So stop adding more and more annoying small fries like them. The Gu with the appearance of a youth sneered as spoke and then looked at the only woman among them. Well, I can't deny that those people still have a ways to go before they can reach your level. It's getting harder and harder to find those with strength comparable to you and me. That's why. Will you at least get along as fellow users of secret arts? Thank you very much. The woman replied with a nonchalant tone. Anyhow, this organization and the method of our movement, everything is in accordance to the Immortal King. And I'm here to make sure that everything follows the will of the Immortal King. I've no intention to be a show-off. The generals will be Gu and Rose of Sub-Kingdom with me as your raid. Your sorceries are more suited for large-scale massacre. After all, let's use this place as a warning and trample them underfoot. The man in black armor said this, Leave it to me. The lips of the woman called Rose of Sub-Kingdom formed a smile as she spoke. They're getting cocky because of ugly corpse old man and spinner of the truth. I'm gonna teach those sorcerers the meaning of true terror. You guys do your best as the vanguard. Leave the 4 great sages and Zebediah to me. I'm gonna make them suffer to the point that they curse their own god and their mothers who gave birth to them. The man raised the huge bug on his arm, set aside its wings, and took a bite out of its back. The bug's legs wriggled violently as its bodily fluids dripped out from its gouged back. Finally, I can go all out after dozens of years. The man threw an insect to the floor. The insect tried to get up while moving its slender legs, but many small insects came out from its torn belly. Thus, the larger insect became nutrients for the little ones. The man scooped its remains, dropped them on his long tongue, and swallowed. The man then brushed the little one with his index finger. There, good KLD. Now let's use this basement that I prepared. Meanwhile, you guys can spend your time freely till I return. Come to think of it, I heard that a strange undead rampaged in Viscount Legale's territory. Just in case, please be careful. You're the one who should be careful. Though I've confirmed that you're the user of insect curse sorcery, that fellow strength is no joke. But it's still much better than fighting you. Though I feel bad for both me and that fellow. We're invulnerable. Act 4-7, Holy City Raid 1. Chapter 7, Holy City Raid 1. Yeah, I guess that's better since we really have no other choice. I can rest assured now that she's in better hands. Lambert was running around Heinstier while muttering those words. Around 10 sorcerers from the Inquisition squad chased after him from behind. After entrusting the daughter of Baron Dibel to the acquaintance of the blind minstrel Alvana, Lambert attracted his chasers by showing himself in the middle of the main street. He lured the Inquisition squad away toward the opposite direction of the city to allow Alvana's acquaintances to take the girl to safety. Since they left the building along with Lambert, he expected they had already left the city if everything went according to plan. What he didn't expect was the fact that the sorcerers of the Inquisition squad were a bunch of persistent people. Originally, he wanted to throw them off and resume gathering intelligence, but they kept appearing out of nowhere, interrupting Lambert. It seemed the news about Lambert sending the armless man Matai, who was also one of the 4 great sages, flying with a kick at the execution platform, had already spread throughout the entire city. Oh flame, burn. Thanks to that, the sorcerers of the Inquisition squad were in hot pursuit of Lambert. They kept shooting fire magic at him, burning everything in their wake. Since there were many talented sorcerers in this city, the other sorcerers used water spells to prevent the fire from spreading even further, but a single mistake might cause a spell to hit the citizens of the city. I wanted to buy a bit more time to gather information, but it can't be helped, I guess. Lambert turned around and drew his great sword. This is the only way out in this situation, I guess. Sorry folks, I'm gonna knock you out for a little bit. At that moment, a humongous giant appeared on the rooftops far away from Lambert. It had porcelain white skin and 3 gaping holes on its face. It had no lower body. Only its upper body floated in the air. He had seen it once before in Tietenberg, the gigantic spirit of the realm of light. Standing in front of the spirit was a masked man, the summoner of the spirit. Johann Sama is coming. Archangel Sama has descended. The sorcerers of the Inquisition squad spoke calmly. Lambert couldn't see their emotions since they covered their faces. The citizens of the Holy City and the ordinary believers escaped from that place as soon as they saw the humongous giant. Are those people gonna fire that magic right in the middle of the city? The moment Lambert said that, a huge, blazing red cross appeared high in the sky. Lambert rushed at once toward the man called Johann. A while later, the blazing cross chased after him from behind. I thought this magic missed in that abolished capital, but it seems I was too naive. Lambert had met Johann in Tietenberg a while ago. That time, he stopped the Inquisition squad to give Alanti and the other kids a chance to escape. Although he cornered Johann and his subordinates to the point that they collapsed from exhaustion, the fight stopped because Lambert escaped. I guess they did so to prevent me from taking a hostage. Okay, as you wish, I'll kick your ass again. Lambert rushed even faster toward Johann. He's coming. Prepare Thalara's formation. TL, Bronze Bull, one of the most infamous torture devices. A sorcerer of the Inquisition squad spoke to their comrades. The other sorcerers moved at once, forming a double row formation in the shape of a half circle, heading toward Lambert. Oh Earth, change your shape. 3 sorcerers in the back formation raised their canes and chanted their spell at the same time. The paved road rose up, and like a giant jaw, it was trying to swallow Lambert. It was a large-scale cage to stop Lambert, who could move around at high speed. The earthen cage quickly turned into a sphere. 3 sorcerers in the front raised their canes, pointing at the earthen sphere. "O flame, arise!" A brilliant red light shone from the inside of the earthen sphere. The sorcerers of the Inquisition Squad trained every day in group fighting to triumph against enemies who were more powerful than themselves. "He is a terrifying monster. Don't let your guard down. He might survive this." Lambert was already behind the man before the latter could finish his words. A metal gauntlet struck the side of the man's head before he managed to turn around. The man was easily sent flying, crashing against the wall and passing out. Lambert didn't waste any more time, sending the other 2 flying as well with his kick before he rushed toward Johann again. Maybe none of the Inquisition Squad's sorcerers knew what happened just now. Although their bodies and minds were tempered by their harsh training, they were still dumbfounded. Not one could react to Lambert's attack. A while ago, when the ground rose up, Lambert used the debris and soil to hide his figure. Entering the sorcerer's blind spot, he moved at high speed. The sorcerers thought that a spell of this size was enough to stop Lambert. No one could blame them for that blunder, since it was near unbelievable that someone could move that fast in full plate armor, thus creating a psychological gap. Although Lambert had terrifying swordcraft, that it was far from enough to make him a man who embodied the ideal philosophy of a general and swordsman that survived the 8 countries' unification war. His current state could be said to be the sublimation of his skill, which survived many dangerous wars in his era. His footwork, stance, and the usage of his surroundings to avoid spells by using waves of magic and obstacles were among the basics of his skills. Lambert glared at Johann, who was looking down at him from atop the roof of the building. The giant spirit with 3 holes in its face was also looking at Lambert. Act 4:8, Holy City Raid 2. Chapter 8, Holy City Raid 2. Lambert jumped up from inside the building, piercing the roof where Johann stood. "Now that you've come this far, don't ever think that you can escape from me." Lambert landed on the rooftop, pointing his great sword at Johann. "I've come to inquire about your justice." To begin with, Archangel Dantalia of 3 Faces excels in close combat. The reason for our retreat back then was that we had another matter to attend to. Johann raised his arm. The giant spirit from the realm of light, Dantalia, gripped the blazing red cross in both of its hands. "Seeing that you're already in this holy city, our territory, your fate has been decided. Now, prepare yourself." Dantalia, floating behind Johann, brandished the blazing cross. Lambert stepped forward and dodged the incoming cross. The floor where he stood a moment ago was blasted along with an exploding sound. As expected, that one is a long-distance fighter. Although it's fast, it's way too big. I can close the distance immediately, and had I really come to kill you, it wouldn't be able to save you, its summoner. Nevertheless, only a swordsman of Lambert's caliber could achieve something like that. In the first place, it was normally impossible for any swordsman to get close due to Dantalia's reaction speed, which was comparable to that of a human. Not to mention that there were only a few people who stood equal to Dantalia, a giant otherworldly monster. Johann's tactic to use Dantalia as his shield and sword wasn't wrong. Johann's only mistake was that he chose the wrong person as his opponent. Johann swung his sleeve, and a hidden long blade unraveled. Johann stepped forward, ready to unleash a counter with his hidden blade. Even if he couldn't kill Lambert, all he needed was to buy some time to let Dantalia catch up and kill Lambert for him. Lambert didn't slow down. He rushed straight toward Johann, seemingly wanting to send the latter flying by ramming him with his armor. His armor repelled the blade. He didn't let go of that moment and grabbed Johann's wrist, twisted it, and broke his bones. And just like that, his face rammed right on Lambert's armor from the front, sending him flying backward. Johann landed on his back, and the collision shattered his mask. He vomited blood from his mouth, which had been sewn off with only a small opening. You might be a terrifying monster, but you've made a mistake. You might want to use me as your hostage, but that'll be the reason you lose. Johann didn't get knocked out by the impact. Lambert's body blow was aiming to stun him, but the magic formulae carved on Johann's body was designed to limit the amount of pain that could be felt by the bearer, not to mention that they'd even use narcotics to maintain their heightened state and fight till the bitter end, meaning that the summoned spirit wouldn't disappear unless he died. The blazing cross would go after Lambert till either one of them died. "Victory is me." Lambert stopped the blazing cross, which came from behind, with his great sword. Lambert's huge frame was pushed down since the floor on which he stood couldn't bear the power of Dantalia's blow. And just like that, the blazing cross suddenly pierced Dantalia's chest right in the next moment, raising black fumes as it stabbed its owner. Dantalia, who only realized that situation a few beats later, could only watch helplessly as its arms dropped powerlessly. Pain wails resounded from its mouthless face with 3 holes before it turned into particles of light. Johann also couldn't believe what he just saw. He had excellent mental fortitude thanks to his rigorous training, which allowed him to stay composed in any situation. And yet, the reality before him made him doubt his own common sense. Lambert stood still in his place, moving a little bit to adjust his stance. This was the counter skill, Great Heaven Shift. From the very beginning, when their weapons clashed, Lambert guided the cross to glide across his sword's blade, returning the opponent's weapon toward the owner, although it was simply a swordcraft that redirected the victor using its user's body as the fulcrum. When Lambert executed such a move, it looked more like magic to Johann. "That's it, I guess." Now then, once again. Suddenly, a lot of screams could be heard from outside. Lambert's sentence was interrupted, and then he looked outside of the building. The color of the floor was different from normal. Giant strange bugs with purplish outer shells ran amok in the inner part of the holy city. Are those the Hudo tribe's enhanced demonic insects? Lambert moved toward the edge of the rooftop, looking around at the situation. The Hudo tribes focused on sorcery research using insects as their medium. During the 8 countries unification war, they belonged to Belfi's kingdom, a superpower country in regard to sorcery. Although Belfi's kingdom was a superpower back then, due to the numerous accidents during dangerous research and a colossal accidental discharge of deadly sorcery, they literally lost their power overnight. In the end, that chaotic situation was used by the other kingdoms to conquer them, and the main cause of Belfi's kingdom's downfall was the internal power struggle that used sorcery developed by the Hudo tribe. Although many of their sorceries, such as the power to see through lies and manipulating someone else's thoughts and memories, were proven to be imperfect, it didn't change the fact that such power was too much for mere humans to handle. Kicking down their rivals to cover their crimes, crushing political enemies without an arduous execution process, fabricating lies about one's achievements to obtain success. It was a secret art that should never see the light of the day for fear of misuse, and yet, it was an open secret amongst the upper echelon that such dangerous sorceries were widespread, bringing about a never-ending chain of suspicion. Although the damage was a lot bigger than it was supposed to be thanks to the foreign spy who took advantage of the situation, Lambert only scowled at them since he detested using such methods. Though every single member of the Hudo tribe was supposed to be executed in accordance to the order of the general who felled Belfi's kingdom back then, it was still a mystery how the supposed lost art was used to kill Viscount Legale. Lambert suspected that someone in Devil's Pipe used that sorcery. Since they appeared to use enhanced demonic insects, he couldn't dismiss it as a coincidence anymore. They want to hunt down the Inquisition squad too, Lambert muttered in a low voice. Act 4-9, Holy City Raid 3. Chapter 9, Holy City Raid 3. The nature of the enhanced demonic insect of the Hudo tribe was their ability to multiply. The downside was their individual power. It was so weak that even a normal adult could beat them as long as they had a weapon in hand. But the most terrifying thing about them was their reproductive abilities. Due to their curse, the enhanced demonic insect could grow from infant to adult in just a few minutes as long as they had enough food. Once they reached adulthood, they would grow to half a hind meter. The reason for their difference in size was solely due to nutrition. Basically, they ate everything. That was why they were normally buried inside the opponent's body. The larvae would then grow from inside and eat up the living creature used as host. In no time, the enhanced demonic insect would give birth to a lot of eggs. Just like that, the reproduction of enhanced demonic insect was truly otherworldly. But since their growing speed reduced after that, The process couldn't repeat indefinitely. Although their reproductive ability was great, their growth rate became an opening to exterminate them. But the problem was the fact that the users of this technique kept several enhanced demonic insect. If they were going to capture the holy city, they should have prepared enhanced demonic insect from the very beginning. Anyhow, the only way was a hard approach: kill them all as soon as possible. Defeating one enhanced demonic insect was equivalent to defeating the hundreds of insects yet to be born. On the other hand, missing even one was equivalent to missing hundreds of them. I'll spare you for now. You guys are lucky. Going to escape, eh? You damn undead. Johann stood up while pressing his cracked mask. You've noticed, eh? Lambert spoke with a bored tone and looked up. You should prioritize the protection of your capital, right? You have to crush all those enhanced demonic insect. At this rate, all citizens of the holy city are going to become prey to these insects. They are cursed creatures created by Devil's Piper. They can become quite troublesome foes depending on the number in the first generation. Johann fell silent. Even if Lambert was such a sinister existence for Johann, he understood his priorities. Lambert headed toward the staircase and descended to the ground. How dare a mere filthy undead interfere with us? The living. Oh flame, become tiger. Johann conjured a tiger from the flames of his spell, which then rushed toward Lambert. Lambert turned around immediately, readied his great sword, and sliced the flame tiger in half. Don't forget that I'll come to inquire about your justice once I take care of this matter. I've no intention to change that now. I'll overlook you guys just this once to see how you respond to this situation. Lambert released his miasma as he gave that ultimatum. Johann, who received direct hit from Lambert's miasma, staggered back and fell on his rear. Impossible. My mental state, which is stabilized with sorcery, actually felt such overwhelming fear. Johann muttered this. After that, Lambert ran around inside the holy city, slaughtering every enhanced demonic insect he met along the way. He aimed for their heads to kill them for sure. He had no leeway to strike at the same enhanced demonic insect twice. He tried to kill as many enhanced demonic insects as possible, in the swiftest possible way. And yet, another enhanced demonic insect crawled atop the corpse of its peer, bit into the corpse, and laid its eggs. The enhanced demonic insect whose head should be crushed turned out to be alive. They had such terrifying life force. He also saw the citizens of the holy city, who had become the prey for the insects. Damn, there's no end of them. When Lambert muttered this, he heard a noise from afar, a sound similar to a horse's neigh. It was then followed by another scream. It turned out that the one who came was the headless black warhorse, Nightmare. Although Lambert ordered it to stand away from the holy city, it seemed it came after noticing the current situation. Lambert rode on Nightmare, swinging his great sword and killing enhanced demonic insects around him. But each slain enhanced demonic insect was immediately replaced by another. As times went on, it became more and more difficult to avoid the scattered corpses of enhanced demonic insects. Lambert heard a scream from nearby. Using his undead power to sense mana, he detected 4 people around him. So he brought Nightmare toward their direction. Hiya, what the hell? The bald man who wore the mantle of a believer trembled while protecting 2 children in his arms. Enhanced demonic insects eating the nearby corpses turned their attention and moved toward them. Gee God, please save us. Lambert threw his great sword, crushing the head of enhanced demonic insect. The most terrifying thing was the fact that the enhanced demonic insect's leg twitched uncontrollably. The man and the children raised their faces. Gee God. Too bad, I'm the furthest existence from God. In your faith, I'm more like a devil. Lambert pulled out his great sword, which had pierced the earth, as he rode on top of Nightmare. The man was looking dumbfoundedly at Lambert and his headless black horse, Nightmare. Sorry. I've got my hands full with handling these bugs and can't escort you to a safe place. Use that way. There are less enhanced demonic insect corpses over there. Bring weapons with you. These insects are weak, so you can stun them by hitting their heads. Go now. You're going to meet more and more of these insects the further you go from this place. Now is your chance to get away. Lambert turned around and massacred the enhanced demonic insects around that place. The bald man took advantage of that situation, picked up the wooden staff falling nearby, and ran along with the children. but whether they were safe or not wasn't something that Lambert could worry about for now. I can't save another person just for the sake of those before me. Saving them in this place is the best I can do for them. It was the problem that he always had to ask himself after seeing the brutal deeds of the Inquisition squad. Lambert felt that his OCD might become his doom. Moreover, in this situation, he was more worried about what would happen if the Inquisition squad handled the situation improperly. He saw the sorcerers of the Inquisition squad baking the corpses of enhanced demonic insects in the distance. It seemed they started to understand the main problem when facing enhanced demonic insects and opted for a burning method to increase their efficiency, destroying the corpses that would become incubators for egg. It would be much better if I could use magic too. Lambert heaved a sigh and went to another place. Act 4:10, Holy City Raid 4. Chapter 10. Holy City Raid 4. As he crushed the enhanced demonic insects around him, Lambert made full use of his undead trait to feel the strange flow of mana. Indeed, undeads had innate ability to sense mana. Normally, the trait was used to hunt down living beings, but in the hands of Lambert, who turned into undead while maintaining his ego, he could utilize such an ability even further to know the nature of the object of his observation. In short, as long as the other party was a heretic, he would know immediately. He could also reproduce mana sensing spells used by humans, but those who could skillfully use mana sensing were rare, even during the 8 countries unification war. Although the range of Lambert's mana sensing wasn't large, it was enough for him to find the sorcerers who controlled the enhanced demonic insects. The enhanced demonic insects were running amok inside the holy city. Their movements seemed random, but when he looked at the entire herd as a whole, he realized that they came from one direction. That might be where the new enhanced demonic insects were being birthed from. The insects then headed toward the current direction, as if following their master's will. Lambert stopped in his tracks, looking around to confirm his surroundings. For a moment, he detected 2 strange mana presences. Although their mana wasn't that powerful, they huddled together as they headed toward the center of the holy city. It seemed like they were moving through an underground tunnel. Lambert concluded that there might be an underground network beneath the holy city, but it's way too suspicious. According to the level of their mana, the chance of them being the sorcerers of Devil's Piper is low. Why are they heading toward the center of the holy city instead of evacuating? Do they have some sort of goal, or do they simply think that it's much safer underground? Damn it, I lack the information to confirm. Let's return later to confirm the situation. Another spectacle caught his attention. Dozens of spirits from the realm of light, which the church referred as angels, were brandishing their swords and killing the enhanced demonic insects around them. Although those spirits were just like Lambert, they had no choice but to use their swords to eliminate the enhanced demonic insects since they couldn't use fire magic. Maybe those spirits were summoned by one of the 4 great sages, Mattai, whom Lambert met at the execution platform. Lambert was thankful for his assistance in eliminating the enhanced demonic insects, but he had one worry left. Large-scale summoning like this would literally tell the enemy to target the summoner. The number of enhanced demonic insects far surpassed the quantity of Mattai's summoned spirits, but Mattai's summoned spirits were clearly aiming to truly eliminate the enhanced demonic insects since his location made it easier for him to see the enhanced demonic insects. That, in turn, made it easier for the enemy to assassinate Mattai. Naturally, Mattai himself is clearly an unpleasant person. His cruelty and foul mouth aside, that sadism of him seems to be something innate. But letting Mattai die like that would only increase the number of Devil's Piper's victims. Mattai summoned more spirit than when he faced Lambert since this situation required quantity over quality. Currently, Lambert had 3 options. He could subjugate the master of the enhanced demonic insects, investigate the underground tunnel, or protect Mattai, one of the 4 great sages. All of them were urgent matters that couldn't be left alone. His intuition told him that he was risking the loss of the other 2 if he prioritized one. Originally, Mattai's escort, who chased him, was the best option as his source of information. They were also the best choice for temporary cooperation. As for the problem with the underground tunnel, it suggested that there was some sort of underground movement that Lambert had no idea about. Lambert grasped his great sword and ran again. He headed toward the direction from which the enhanced demonic insects came from. The option that he chose was to kill the source of the enhanced demonic insects. He knew that the other two were equally important. On the other hand, it might be true that defeating the master of the insects didn't mean that the enhanced demonic insects would stop. He judged that the remnants of the Huda tribe were too dangerous compared to the other two. If it was someone who knew the secrets of the Huda tribe, the enhanced demonic insects weren't even the tip of the iceberg. Anyhow, albeit due to accidents, they were the main cause of the fall of the strongest nation more than 200 years ago. The general of the nation, who feared their abilities, went as far as giving the strict order to burn all their books and execute all leaders related to the tribe. The reason why even the other nations bared their fangs toward the tribe's ability was purely coincidence. Their arts were brutal yet completely uncontrollable, thus resulting in the destruction of their own nation. Their hidden potential had proven to be able to destroy even the strongest nation. It was easy to imagine that the situation was going to deteriorate even further the longer the insect master was alive. Lambert found out that the place from which the enhanced demonic insects came from was a dilapidated church. Huge insects kept crawling out from the hole in the wall. Lambert's mana sensing detected several humans inside the building. Doesn't seem to be one versus many. A huge hole opened up in one corner of the church. The corpse of a burned insect flew out from the other side of the hole. It seemed a battle had already taken place inside. Lambert slew the enhanced demonic insects that got in his way. He rushed toward the entrance of the abandoned church and then kicked the front door. In the hall of the abandoned church, people clad in robes from the Inquisition squad were facing a slender youth. There were 4 stone statues around the members of the Inquisition squad. The top of each stone statue formed a wall of light, enclosing the area inside. It seemed to be a barrier to repel curses. The enhanced demonic insects that stepped inside the barrier stopped moving at once and turned black in color. Among the members of the Inquisition squad was a blonde-haired girl, who was clearly different from the rest of the squad. Although she wasn't wearing the headgear, she wore the same cloth with the Heinz Faith crest drawn on it to cover her eyes. Here we go again, having to face the kind of opponent I hate the most and their unexpected reinforcements on top of that. The slender youth spoke with a bored look on his face. It seemed he was already injured since blood dripped from one of his smashed eyeballs. Not to mention that one of his legs was crushed too. It seems to be the undead who came a while ago. The girl spoke without even turning around to see Lambert. This will make it easier since both of them came at the same time. Since we're in hurry, let's grant them salvation in the simplest way. Act 4:11, Holy City Raid 5. Chapter 11, Holy City Raid 5 TN, New Project. Since Lambert had already done a preliminary investigation about the Heinz Faith, he naturally knew of the blonde-haired girl within the Inquisition squad. A woman with her eyes covered with cloth and long, golden hair tied into pigtails. Those traits described Filippo of the 4 great sages. Filippo was an expert user of barrier sorcery. She was infamously even more cruel than Mattai. It seemed Filippo managed to locate the master of the enhanced demonic insects before Lambert and had already engaged in a battle against him. The movements of the enhanced demonic insects inside the abandoned church seemed to be centered around the youth who fought against her. Lambert looked around the insides of the abandoned church. Seeing the situation, Filippo seemed to be cornering the youth while reducing the number of enhanced demonic insects within the barrier. The barrier didn't seem to suck mana from Filippo. The bodies of the enhanced demonic insects that passed through the barrier soon turned white, cracked, and died. Maybe because the youth also realized that he couldn't get past the barrier, he tried to kill Filippo first. Moreover, the 3 sorcerers of the Inquisition squad who stood by Filippo's side didn't seem to use their magical powers either. In short, no one but Filippo could unlock the barrier. But then, Lambert realized why the youth didn't try to escape from this church which had been locked by Filippo's barrier and guarded by another 3 sorcerers from the Inquisition squad. It was because the entrance to the underground waterway, in which he bred the first generation of the enhanced demonic insects, was right in this abandoned church. With his undead perception ability, Lambert could feel the swirling miasma in the underground waterway beneath the church. Thus, the youth stopped Filippo and the others from entering the waterway. Filippo's line of sight moved from the youth to Lambert. "Oh light, become a spear." The light conjured from the tip of her cane turned into a spear of light, heading toward Lambert. Lambert dodged the incoming spear of light by a paper-thin margin. The spear of light stuck into the ground behind Lambert and vanished into the air. At that moment, a magic circle appeared right where it vanished, releasing an extremely brilliant light. Lambert, who suddenly felt that he was about to be intoxicated, kicked the ground immediately. After the brilliant light receded, Lambert looked at the hole left behind by the spear of light. That should be effective against undead, but your lingering attachment in this world seems to be quite strong. But it's okay, this Filippo will send you off properly. Another 3 spears of lights appeared within Filippo's barrier. Thanks to his wealth of experiences against numerous sorcerers during the 8 countries unification war, Lambert could guess the effect of the spell from Filippo's words. That spear of light would break upon impact, unleashing a spell that caused the mana in the surroundings to go into a state of chaos. For undead who depended on mana itself, that kind of spell was the most dangerous. My current priority is to kill that member of the Hudo tribe over there. And yet, aren't you guys prioritizing the safety of the citizens of the Holy City? Oh, I'm honored to be recognized by those in this era. The youth smiled eerily as he twisted his bloody head. My salvation is impartial. Properly speaking, my salvation isn't something as crude as life or flesh, it's the soul. According to the teaching of Hein-sama, salvation should be brought about equally to everyone, regardless of their wealth or social status. Philippa spread her arms as she spoke in exaggerated gestures. The souls of those slaughtered by monsters need salvation. If it's not me, then who else? At this point, your cursed soul needs salvation. Without it, you'll suffer an eternal damnation in hell. Tears rolled down from beneath Filippo's blindfold. Even Lambert, who had his fill of various kinds of tragedies during the 8 countries unification war, was left speechless upon hearing Filippo's speech. Does that mean you're going to prioritize torturing me and that man over than the safety of the citizen of the Holy City? Filippo cocked her head as if she didn't understand what Lambert had said. But she just swung her cane without even replying to Lambert. 3 spears of light rushed toward Lambert with speed incomparable to before. Lambert moved out quickly from the range of the mana disturbance. That's what you get for trying to talk about common sense with those lunatics. I won't help you, but shall I create some chances for you? I'll play with you after we take care of them. The youth spoke to Lambert. Lambert turned his head, looking at Filippo, who stood behind him again. There, he saw Filippo pointing her cane at Lambert's back with a triumphant look on her face. She conjured another spear of light. Lambert ignored her and turned to the front again, pointing his great sword at the youth before him. The youth's face warped lightly. I don't know where you get that fortitude of yours, but I know that you're quite skilled. Don't you know that you're at a disadvantage if you keep fighting me? You're going to regret this, you know. Lambert inched closer to the youth while keeping a tab on the spear of light behind him. The moment he confirmed that the spear of light was fired, he dashed at once. The insects that tried to coil themselves around him were knocked away by his simple rush. The bodily fluids of the insects that were trampled spewed into the air. Upon seeing Lambert's rush, the youth was dumbfounded for a moment, but he fixed his stance immediately, preparing to receive Lambert's rush. Protect me. The enhanced demonic insects that were crawling around him gathered in front of the youth, forming a meat wall. But a wall like that was akin to a piece of paper for Lambert. He swung his great sword, aiming to destroy both the youth and the wall. The youth leaned forward at once. The flesh of the torn insect got into his hair. That was close, and that's my strongest defense. That's your limit. The youth's left arm suddenly fell to the ground, bisected right from his shoulder. He realized that he failed to dodge Lambert's slash. Why, you bastard! The youth raised his face, glaring at Lambert. At that moment, Lambert kicked the youth's face with the weight of his organ armor. The youth was blown back like a bullet, blowing away the enhanced demonic insects on his way and only stopping after his body sank into the wall. I have no regrets. I'm going to kill you before anyone can interfere. The youth stood up again even though his skull just got crushed by Lambert's kick. Interesting. It seems that armor ain't just for show. But too bad. I'm quite tough myself. I guess it's time to go all out. Act 4:12, Holy City Raid 6. Chapter 12, Holy City Raid 6. The youth raised his right arm, pointing with his right index finger. I wanted to wait till a bit more, but I've got no choice, I guess. He smashed it, pulling it out by its root without hesitation. Numerous tiny insects flowed out with his blood, surrounding the finger and starting to feast on the blood and flesh like ravenous demons. The remaining forefinger bone was really strange. It was straight without any joints at all, with a hole at its center like a pipe. "Let's go." The youth took a breath and blew the whole of his forefinger bone. Following that was a strange, shrill sound. The enhanced demonic insects suddenly gushed from innermost part of the room, entrance, cracks along the wall, and the windows of the abandoned church. It seemed the enhanced demonic insects in the nest of the first generation and around the abandoned church gathered when they heard the sound from that bone flute. "Let's game on." The youth rushed toward Lambert. Even though Lambert was focused on dodging Filippo's spear of light, he didn't miss the incoming enhanced demonic insects. The youth got closer and closer to the range of Lambert's great sword. At that moment, he opened his mouth. He then fired a green centipede, with legs that rivaled the size of those of humans, straight toward Lambert. Lambert stopped the incoming centipede with the blade of his great sword, slicing it in half. He didn't stop with just that. His great sword kept moving around, slaying the enhanced demonic insects around him. The youth then brandished his right arm toward Lambert. Since he was still outside the range of Lambert's great sword, the boy disconnected his right arm from his elbow. The disconnected arm then turned black as if it was rotting and flew toward Lambert. The incoming right arm blackened and swelled, revealing holes on its skin. Appearing from within the holes were 5 huge, black wasps. But Lambert had already predicted that, so he bisected all 5 of them once they flew in a straight line. The youth flexed his leg, trying to come toward Lambert from his left side this time. "Splendid, but that'll be your doom." But then, his expression turned into disbelief as Lambert turned around immediately, unleashing a kick with his left leg. The boy barely managed to dodge. He wanted to close in, but he stopped since he saw that Lambert had already taken a stance with his great sword. The next moment, the very same sword gouged his abdomen. And just like that, the sword's blade pierced his body, scattering his blood and viscera. All kinds of insects crawled out of his body. Lambert didn't stop. He rushed in and swung his sword toward the youth. The youth barely managed to dodge the slash by jumping back. Lambert tried to pursue the youth, but he backed off immediately since Filippo's spear of light was stuck in between him and the youth. The dazzling light, which appeared as the spear of light, dispersed the enhanced demonic insects around it. "Oops. Too bad it missed. I was almost convinced that I could grant you 2 salvations at the same time." Filippo spoke with an intimate voice. "How troublesome." Lambert muttered this. Just one more step and he would be able to kill the youth for sure. Barely escaping death, the youth ran toward Filippo and the other's direction. "TCH, can't be helped. I have to at least take down one person, even if I abandon the nest." Though Lambert's great sword left a deep wound in his abdomen a moment ago, the wound had already been sealed by the wall of insects that the youth gathered from inside his body. The youth moved so fast, as if he was unaffected by his wound. Lambert chased after him immediately. From his tone, the youth sounded like he was in a desperate situation, but Lambert's intuition felt something was amiss. Seeing that he kept fighting against Filippo inside the barrier, Lambert guessed that the youth must have some sort of method to break the barrier. No matter how much he insisted that he protected the nest of the enhanced demonic insects, logically speaking, it was impossible against fight Filippo forever. In short, the youth's method took a long time to prepare. In addition, there was also that flute to call the enhanced demonic insects. Though it was useless against someone of Lambert's caliber, it wasn't supposed to be used by him to break the barrier. He had another way to do that. Even if the youth gathered the enhanced demonic insects to destroy Filippo's barrier, it was just as the youth had said, he should wait for a bit more to increase the number of enhanced demonic insects in the basement. Originally, Lambert was confused why Devil's Piper chose the not-so-troublesome enhanced demonic insects to wreak havoc in the Holy City. Though such a plan would indeed create a chaotic situation, the enhanced demonic insects honestly fell short compared to their target, the Inquisition Squad. Something about the youth's flippant attitude caught Lambert's attention. That boy seemed to be hiding his true plan without alerting both Lambert and Filippo. Lambert chased after the youth, but he couldn't go too far to keep the number of enhanced demonic insects in check. In the same condition, Lambert's leg power was more powerful, but the enhanced demonic insects in front of the youth split to both sides as if making way for Lambert. "If you don't want to die, You have to cancel the barrier and escape from this place. Anyone who has harmed the Hudo tribe won't die in peace." Lambert gave a last warning to Filippo. And yet, Filippo didn't seem to care about Lambert's warning. "Finally, you come at me." Filippo raised her cane. She fired her spear of light toward the youth. Though the blast of light caused a minor disturbance, the youth passed by the place like nothing. However, his running speed was greatly reduced compared to before. Behold, Filippo's ace in the hole. "Oh light, become a wall and wrap that person." A wall of light formed beneath the youth's feet, launching his body along with numerous enhanced demonic insects. The light around the youth warped. It was among the best spells in Filippo's arsenal. It created a huge barrier that enclosed her target inside, crushing them to death by compressing the barrier. Numerous enhanced demonic insects struggled inside. The youth was also kicking the barrier from inside, but it was futile. Not even their voice could be heard outside. "No one can leave this barrier until now. That barrier will crush your body till it's nothing more than a lump of meat. Worry not, for I will watch you until you die. That will be my salvation for you." Filippo licked her lips. The box of light slowly crushed the enhanced demonic insects inside. The body fluid of the enhanced demonic insects had already painted the wall of light, blocking anyone outside from seeing the condition of the youth. "Oops, that makes it harder to see the inside." Such a burden. Suddenly, a magic circle around 10 meters in diameter appeared with Filippo's barrier as its center. The corpses of the enhanced demonic insects lined up in accordance to the patterns of the magic circle. Though there was a pattern that seemingly missed the timing, Lambert saw the living enhanced demonic insects dragging their peer's corpse to fill the missing pattern. "Banquet of ravenous insects." The youth's voice resounded from the basement. The corpses of the enhanced demonic insects suddenly released black light. So from the very beginning, his aim was to perform a ceremony. Lambert muttered this, glaring where Filippo unleashed her mana disturbance spell. There was a huge hole in that place. The youth apparently used the flood of light to escape into the basement, placing a dummy in his original position. What? Filippo shook her head with a troubled look on her face. There was a saying that spirits had their own favorite time, place, situation, and even mana spot, especially high-ranking spirit. They were even more selfish due to their superior rank and strength. Ceremony was a deed of forcefully creating the most ideal situation for the spirit with sorcery. "Heed my call and came to this world, starving destroyer Abaddon." The floor beneath Filippo cracked, and then a centipede with a giant skull, Abaddon from the insect realm, materialized. It destroyed the foundation of the barrier and the 4 supporting pillars, effectively destroying the barrier. "Too bad. I can change my body by molting." "It's convenient, right?" Standing on top of the centipede's skull was the youth who retained his resemblance from before. His amputated arms and gouged abdomen became as good as new. Act 4:13, Holy City Raid 7. Chapter 13, Holy City Raid 7. The being summoned from the insect realm with Banquet of Ravenous Insect was the starving destroyer Abaddon. The youth who stood on top of the human skull of Abaddon looked down at Filippo and her party below him. With a cruel smile on his face, Lambert had finally noticed the reason why they used enhanced demonic insects to destroy the holy city. It was because the corpses of the insects were needed in the ceremony to summon the high-ranking spirit from the insect realm. And the condition to summon the high-ranking spirit from the insect realm had pretty much been fulfilled since there were heaps of enhanced demonic insects in the abandoned church. The real target wasn't the destruction of the holy city with enhanced demonic insects, it was to kill every single one of the 4 great sages with high-ranking insect spirits. "Oh flame, burn!" Filippo's subordinates jumped in front of her to act as a meat wall, while unleashing spells toward Abaddon's head. But the flames vanished as soon as they touched Abaddon's head. "It's futile. Abaddon is a quasi-high-ranking spirit. Though they will vanish immediately since it is a simplified ritual, they're enough for small fries like you lots. You lots shall tremble in fear while this fella is here." Just a simple roar from Abaddon's skull mouth was enough to give an ominous feeling and send a chill running down everyone's spines. The 3 sorcerers' bodies wrapped in flames. They were writhing in pain as their bodies turned into fire dolls. Abaddon's empty eye sockets went past the sorcerers, who turned into human torches and looked at Filippo. Filippo stepped back, falling on her rear. Her reaction was natural. Abaddon was a quasi-high-ranking spirit. They were 1 rank higher than even Rawn Poop. which was summoned by Manzi before. Its skull face invalidated all spells in the human world, conjuring black flames in any place it wished without fail, and the most frightening thing of all was its destructive power. Even one of the four great sages, Filippo, whose mental strength had been honed by gruesome training, was scared of the pressure emitted by Abaddon. It was even more effective since Abaddon showed that it could easily turn her subordinates into charcoal, pulverizing her prided barrier with ease. If it was any ordinary man facing this situation, they would simply die from extreme fear. The lucky ones would lose their minds. Abaddon's figure vanished slowly. It was just as the youth had said. A huge amount of mana and complex procedure was necessary to fully summon Abaddon. Summoned with simplified rituals, Abaddon couldn't stay in this world for too long. Despite her disordered breathing, Filippo heaved a deep sigh of relief seeing the incarnation of absolute destruction vanish right before her. But her mind had already broken. Ha, 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 ha. Dear God, don't you think that it's still too early to feel relieved? You're the one who drew the short end of the stick after all, Filippo. You're going to die a really painful death. The youth circled around Filippo, who was still frozen in fear, and took a bite off her shoulder. Aawag. Red lines ran through Filippo's body. Her body swelled as if there were countless things crawling beneath her skin. As if that wasn't scary enough, the number of red lines quickly increased as time passed. Aawag. She collapsed on the spot, twitching uncontrollably. The skin on her whole body tore apart as the red lines increased. Why something like this? Filippo barely managed to squeeze out those words with a broken voice. Numerous insects crawled out as she opened her mouth. Gray-colored mucus came out from her nose along with a thin, earthworm-like insect. Her brain started to dissolve due to the liquid ejected by the insect. I have no obligation to answer a corpse's question, right? It's really convenient since you think that you're the only special one. Though I have no interest in your faith, you've said it yourself. One won't go to paradise unless they experience this, right? I mean, you've done the same thing so many times before. You'll suffer for one whole day until the insects in your body eat your brain and viscera. Feeling scared now? I'm not at fault. I'm not the same as you, heretic, who toyed with living humans. As long as this body remains, Zebedee-sama will definitely track you down. Your death is only a matter of time. Hey, are you seriously still maintaining your faith? At least show your selfishness in your last moments. We are just. That's what Zebedee-sama said. The youth sitting on Filippo's body had already been covered with insects. He caught the insect that was sipping on her brain that was secreted from her nose, putting it into his own nose. Lambert swung his sword from behind the youth, aiming for the latter's head. The youth leapt up from his position to dodge Lambert's slash. The blade sliced off the body of Filippo, who was already on her last leg. That slash scattered the insects that nested in her body. How kind of you. Were you aiming for that brat from the very beginning? The youth laughed merrily as he jumped again even further from Lambert. You're really one of the 4 demon generals, right? I've heard rumors about you wreaking havoc everywhere to hunt us down, but to think that a real dangerous fella is the one who came after us. Our target this time is this holy city. I have no time to play with you. But it seems you won't let me go that easily. Seeing the youth laughing with fearless look on his face, Lambert resumed his stance. But very well, albeit late, I shall introduce myself. I'm one of the 8 wise men Gu, and though I'm of the same 8 wise men as Laluk and that spinner of the truth, or should I call him Charlob instead, you shouldn't put me on the same level as those small fries. I, Rose of Sub-Kingdom, or the Knight of Blood Mist, am not as weak as those small fries. Act 4:14, Holy City Raid 8. Chapter 14, Holy City Raid 8. TN, new project to replace Acme. Since I don't want to experience the same mental torture of TLing Act 4 of that novel, the project will continue from Act 10 after I finish the original version. Available in Ko-fi and Patreon. Lambert brandished his great sword at the youth, one of the 8 wise men. Gu, who had removed all of his previous wound due to molting, became more agile due to his smaller build. He stepped back and easily dodged Lambert's attack, but with strike after strike, the youth's reaction became slower and slower. Are you sure about this? The enhanced demonic insects I summoned have started to surround you again. Lambert ignored Gus' teasing voice and unleashed the 4th strike. For Lambert, the enhanced demonic insects weren't a big deal. They were not fast, and their fangs were not sharp enough to cause trouble. In short, they couldn't break through Lambert's organ armor. They could be killed by a simple swing of his arms or crushed to death beneath his armor. The same applied for Gu. Those enhanced demonic insects were worthless. They were nothing more than sacrifices to perform another banquet of ravenous insect. Lambert paid attention to the gathered corpses of the enhanced demonic insects. He tried to disrupt the formation to prevent a second summoning of Abaddon. Lambert's greatsword grazed Gus' abdomen. The blade tore through the youth's black clothes and the skin of his abdomen, spraying a lot of blood in the air. From the youth's blood, wasps emerged, but they were repelled by Lambert's organ armor. TCH, it's impossible to maintain my physical strength with another molting. To think I'm so weak in frontal combat. Lambert leaned lightly and, as if pushing it forward, tossed his great sword at the youth's head. You tried to dodge, but the sword's blade still managed to graze his face. TCH, but this much is. It was supposed to be a mere graze. But the real aim wasn't that. Lambert used the flat side of his greatsword to land a strike on the youth's head. Although the blade only managed to graze the youth, Lambert used his brute strength to land a heavy blow. Only a moment later, Gu staggered backward upon receiving a shock to his head. The greatsword then rose as if scooped up. Suddenly, a pair of moth-like insect wings unfolded from Gus' back, bringing his body into the air. He barely managed to dodge Lambert's attack. That dot was really close. The tear on the youth's back widened, and a giant moth-like monster appeared from within. Apparently, it wasn't that he grew wings from his back, rather, that place just happened to be the incubation place of the giant moth. The moth flew from Gus' back, separating the youth from Lambert. So you can heal your wounds and rejuvenate yourself, huh? Lambert said this, standing calmly. Gus' expressionless face suddenly widened into a creepy smile. Yeah, it's just as you see. Amazing, right? Since that's the case, including the previous two, how many times left can you use the same technique? Huh? The matter that Lambert pointed out was the youth's age regression. After Gu escaped Filippo's spell with his molting, he was younger by at least 10 years. Moreover, even though Lambert couldn't confirm the truth, he realized from the youth's grumbling that using such a technique again would dampen his physical strength. Since that was the case, the life-saving trump card that made him 10 years younger couldn't be used carelessly if he wanted to maintain his advantage. Considering the problem of physical strength, maintaining his age in the 20s was too dangerous. Although the youth was forced to use molting in succession, in Lambert's opinion, Gus' ability was a top-class warrior since he could easily replace his missing body parts by molting. Now, allow me to ask you a simple question. Why do you think I'm willing to answer your question? Although it's dull and bores me to death, the ceremony has been completed. A huge magic circle shone, and a large number of enhanced demonic insects were burned by the black flame. Heed my call and come to this world, starving destroyer Abaddon. The giant centipede with a human skull, Abaddon, appeared before Lambert again. You then jumped and landed on top of Abaddon's skull. Are you going to escape with your tail between your legs? But the game has only just started now. Ha ha ha. Now die for me, Demon General. The human skull rushed toward Lambert. Lambert braced his leg, readying his stance again. Hey, what are you thinking about? Have you lost your mind in desperation? Then, Lambert rushed forward, aiming at the crown of Abaddon's skull. His greatsword dug a bit into the skull. But that was far from enough to stop Abaddon. You think a mere former human like you can defeat a quasi-high-rank spirit? Huh. Dream on, Demon General. Abaddon's rush was unstoppable. It created a huge ditch in its wake, crashing against the wall of the church. The north wall of the abandoned church crumbled. Ha! It seems I went too far this time. Gu descended from Abaddon's body as it started to vanish. The moment he landed on the ground, Lambert had already raised his great sword right before him. The great sword bisected Gus' body right in the middle. Finally, the color of dread and fear dwelled in the youth's eyes. The upper half of Gus' body dropped on the floor, spilling blood from his mouth. Numerous insects crawling out from the bisected part as if trying to escape. Lambert trampled a few of those insects beneath his feet. Lost. Impossible. Receiving Abaddon's charge from the front yet remaining unscathed. Is impossible. It's not like I took that charge from the front. I simply used my sword to make that guy's head into a stepping platform. Why you monster? As if just anyone could do that. Lambert raised his great sword, aiming at Gus' head to kill the latter for sure. But then, Something landed right behind Lambert. Lambert turned around immediately, blocking the incoming greatsword with his own. Then, the other party followed with a body blow to destroy Lambert's footing before stabbing with his greatsword at Lambert's unguarded chest plate. But that last stab failed since Lambert blocked it in the nick of time with his greatsword, therefore allowing him to use the other party's force to jump back and regain his footing. "We'll be in trouble if you kill our important members," ex-demon general turned undead. The assailant was a man almost as tall as Lambert, clad in black armor. Act 4:15, Holy City Raid 9. Chapter 15, Holy City Raid 9. TN. New project to replace Acme. Since I don't want to experience the same mental torture of TLing Act 4 of that novel, the project will continue from Act 10 after I finish the original version. Available in Ko-fi and Patreon. My apologies for the late introduction. My name is Knight of Blood Mist, one of the 8 wise men of Devil's Piper. My apologies for not being able to introduce my real name as I have long since abandoned it. The man with black armor pointed his greatsword at Lambert while introducing himself. His sword was jet black just like his shiny black armor. Lambert knew at a glance that both the sword and armor were made of dullite, enchanted steel, processed with alchemy. During the 8 countries unification war, Regos Kingdom fought against Laurel Kingdom. Despite being small, Laurel Kingdom had high morale. It could compete with the much larger Regos Kingdom since it developed odd sorcery. But one might say that they were unlucky. They got besieged by many other nations at the beginning of the war, thus they could only surrender to the other nation. Since there was a huge discrepancy regarding the knowledge about sorcery during that era, many of Laurel's kingdom's most brilliant sorcerers died, resulting in the loss of knowledge. Dullite's manufacturing method had been passed down in a region of Laurel Kingdom even before the 8 countries unification war. Its strength and durability aside, it could transform into the shape wished by its wearer by sucking the wearer's mana, and its greatest feature was its auto-repair function, which allowed the dullite to repair the damage inflicted on it. But then, many warriors were crippled by it since it simply sucked so much of its wearer magical power. In the end, it was deemed a useless cursed tool. Don't bother introducing yourself, ghost of a former demon general. My above introduction is far more luxurious for the current you. Since you can say these words without reservation, I assume that you already know about me. Lambert spoke as he looked at the back of the Knight of Blood Mist, at Gyu who just got bisected by him. As if dead, he wasn't moving. And yet, the Knight of Blood Mist said that he came to save Gyu. It meant the latter had a way to revive himself. Then I shall kill both of you right here. Ugly old man of corpse, laughing clown, spinner of the truth. And both of you. Once both of you died, the 8 wise men have only 3 members left. If there really is 8 of you, that's it. I won't allow you to do that, ghost of a former demon general. I won't let you hinder more of our plans. You should leave this kingdom without waiting for its destruction, for I have already served under that person for a really long time. Don't think that I'm as weak as the one who you defeated before. The Knight of Blood Mist brandished his sword at Lambert. Lambert blocked the incoming sword with his own. The moment the sword bounced back, he let go of his right hand that gripped the hilt of his great sword, unleashing a shoulder tackle. Knight of Blood Mist's body floated in the air for a second upon receiving the shoulder tackle. Lambert's Herculean strength was enough to pressure Knight of the Blood Mist. However, the black armor was chipped a little bit due to their previous clash. Smoke rose up from the damaged part. The transformed metal wriggling non-stop repaired the damaged part, returning it to normal condition. It seems to be the real thing. Good job on finding it. That armor, Charlobe of Makiura's kingdom, Pseudo tribe of Belfi's kingdom. So the true form of the anti-government organization is the grudge of the defeated nations. He closed in immediately toward the 2. Lambert's greatsword clashed against the Knight of Blood Mist's greatsword again. Well, you can take it as something of that manner. But the reason why that person gathered those people was simply that the sorcery from the unification era is needed to accomplish that person's goal. So every member of the 8 wise men, except for you, is mere war potential. I guess I already said too much. Time to end this. The Knight of Blood Mist repelled Lambert's downward swing, quickly circling around Lambert, ready to slash at the latter from behind. But Lambert used the gauntlet of his arm to smash the sword's blade, reducing the speed of the slash at the initial stage. The Knight of Blood Mist switched the hand used to grip the hilt of his sword, unleashing another slash at Lambert from the opposite direction. Lambert retreated, but that slash managed to graze his leg. The great sword was famous for its weight and destructive power, easily pulverizing any normal armor. And though that graze couldn't leave even a single scratch on the extremely tough organ armor, the impact still transmitted through the armor. It's been a really long time since I've had this kind of proper sword fight. But that sword is clearly from Laurel Kingdom. The ghost of the former demon general. That certainly is a really good sword. But now, I understand. You'll be at disadvantage the more time pass. Suddenly, the part of the Knight of Blood Mist's right gauntlet slipped down, falling to the ground. How? Even faster than my slash. Does that mean your slashes have reached me since our first clash? You're way too desperate to land a hit on me. As expected of the one hailed as the strongest knight of the victorious nation. It seems not even I can match your swordcraft. But I've fulfilled my goal. Now, I shall retreat. Oh, and do allow me to give you one piece of advice. You might discover something really amusing if you keep fighting against us. What? The sliced gauntlet of the Knight of Blood Mist then melted to the ground, exposing the blood-stained arm inside. The arm popped out, sending a spray of blood in the air which created a bloody mist. When the bloody mist vanished, the figure of the Knight of Blood Mist was already gone. He escaped. He hid his presence with the mana in his blood. Lambert looking around, trying to sense the presence of the Knight of Blood Mist. Alas, the latter's presence had already vanished, attracting my attention with an intriguing remark, obscuring vision to hide one's presence, all common techniques. And yet, it's enough to startle me for a moment, allowing them to escape. I guess I still need more training. He looked at the corpse of the man called Gu while pondering that. The demonic insects started to gather around the bisected body parts to feast on them. Lambert swung his great sword at the insects, not leaving any of them to live. Later on, the demonic insects gathered again at the tragic state of the corpse of Gu. Seeing the situation, Lambert knew that the corpse wouldn't resurrect again. Although he felt something was off when the Knight of Blood Mist hinted the escape of Gu, there was no need play with the corpse anymore. Lambert swung down his great sword toward the skull of Gu and ran in another direction. Act 4 16, Princess and Knight. Chapter 16, Princess and Knight. TN. New project to replace Acme. Since I don't want to experience the same mental torture of telling Act 4 of that novel, the project will continue from Act 10 after I finish the original version. Available in Ko-fi and Patreon. At the center of the holy city of Heinztia, several sorcerers gathered. Standing in the center of that place was an armless man covered in bandages, one of the four great sages, Mattai. Those devil's piper bastards. How dare they pollute this holy city with these lowly insects? Mattai had yet to recover from the injury caused by Lambert kicking him in front of the Grand Cathedral a while ago. Even after leaning on his subordinate, he could barely stand. Below the beautiful structure, the corpses of enhanced demonic insects littered the ground. Around 50 Night-class angels from the realm of light summoned by Mattai were fighting against the enhanced demonic insects near the vicinity of the cathedral. The army of Night-class angels, the only merit of which lay in their numbers, was the best choice to eliminate the enhanced demonic insects. Even if the achievements of the other four great sages and the leader of the Inquisition squad were combined together, it was still below Mattai and his army of angels. Damn it, just how many insects are they planning to release in this city? Those rotten and gloomy beastars are really looking down on us. What about the safety of Cardinal Zebedee? Mattai's subordinate asked him. There's no need to worry about that person. He's being escorted by our leader, Simon. He's already escaping from Heinztia. Mattai replied with a nonchalant voice. Rather than conviction, it was as if he was talking about the sun rising from the east, something that was definitely going to happen. But we still have no idea where those bastards from Devil's Piper are hiding. According to the report, several of the 8 wise men comparable to Manzi who single-handedly destroyed Barra City have already infiltrated this city. Cardinal Zebedee should be in the center of this city, the cathedral. There's quite some distance from the entrance of the city. HMPH. Those bastards won't be able to find that person. Moreover, he also has Simon's armor, the strongest sorcerer in the kingdom, by his side. Those lowly heretics won't be able to touch him. I see. And yet, that answer wasn't enough to ease the worry of Mattai's subordinates. The Simon that the subordinate was familiar with was a thin old man with nothing but skin and bones. Although his figure was often seen during ceremonies or important events, The person himself had never left the vicinity of the cathedral. There was even a rumor among the believers that his body condition had deteriorated. To begin with, do you really think that our kingdom's royal family WHO are too keen on using clean methods? Can deal with those bastards from Devil's Piper. It's thanks to them that we're always falling behind those heretics. But our Inquisition squad isn't as naive as the royal family. We will teach those bastards WHO only know make-believe war what a real war is. We'll let them taste true hell on earth. Why yes. Hey, well, not that Cardinal Zebediah needs to escape with the 4 great sages and us protecting him. So far, those bastards from Devil's Piper seem to be satisfied with covering this holy city with their toys. But this move is only enough to kill ordinary believers. It's only a matter of time before we catch them. Matthi's bandaged face moved a little bit. He was laughing as his cheeks muscle twitched. Simon Sama aside, Johann of Flames, Filippo of the Barrier, and I don't fall behind the ones called the 8 Wise Men. Those geese may show up if they want. I hear that some of them possess perpetual youth. A perfect target to be held on a stake or tortured for years to come. Right? Those geese might be afraid of death, but they have no idea there's something even worse than death. The moment Mattai finished speaking, his subordinates who sat on the floor while holding on to big canes stood up. Mattai-sama, something really terrifying is heading in our direction. Finally, like a moth drawn to a flame. A thunderous sound resounded from behind. The one who appeared from the crumbling wall was a tall man whose whole body was entirely clad in organ full-plate armor like a knight transported to the wrong era. Mattai's subordinates raised their vigilance upon seeing the man in organ armor, forming a battle formation. Finally, showing yourself. A conceited and mysterious man clad in armor who suddenly appeared at the execution site. You only managed to take me by surprise back then. It was obvious from his bandage-covered face that Mattai was truly enraged. Following after the man in armor, the next one who came out from the crumbled wall was a hunchback woman. She wore a crown and tattered dress. Her skin was pale like a corpse. "Aha, what nice city." She muttered this with a hoarse voice while looking at the devastating spectacle of enhanced demonic insects eating human corpses or laying eggs. "You feel the same way, right, my dear knight?" Right. The tall man in armor nodded. "Yes, your majesty." "Do it." Following Mattai's order, the sorcerers in the vicinity shot fireballs. In the blink of an eye, the wall was wrapped by scorching flames. In the next moment, a gale akin to the passing of a dragon erased the flames. From the gaps of the flickering flame, everyone could see the figure of the tall man in full plate armor standing calmly as if he just swung his sword to the side. Soon enough the surface of the roof beneath their feet was peeled off after it got caressed by wind. "Is this a dream? Seriously? Just a single swing?" The woman behind the tall man giggled non-stop. "My dear knight is invincible." The tall man readied his great sword again. Even Mattai flinched due to the tall man's overwhelming pressure. "Fools! I released the angels and stood in this conspicuous place like this to lure bastards like you people. Don't think that this is the maximum number of angels that I can summon to kill you." Mattai shouted at the duo. "Heed my call and come from the realm of light." Army of angelic knights. Fen Melkus. Countless particles of light dancing around along with Mattai's voice. On top of the roof, numerous angels from the realm of light appeared en masse. The faceless, winged angels rushed at the tall man. "Well then, it's time for a rematch. Can your sword surpass my army of knight-class angels? On top of that, I've yet to use my trump card." The moment he finished his words, a knight-class angels flew above his head. The angels shook greatly by the weight of organ armor. In the last moment of his life, Mattai realized that his body was just bisected from above. The sword was too fast. Without a shred of hesitation, it was a killing move in which the user jumped outside of the target's range and swung their sword down with the entire weight of their armor. It was called Lunar Wings. This skill, created during the 8 countries' unification war, was impossible to reproduce in the current era due to the extremely high requirement for physical strength, but this armored knight could do it. Thus, he jumped high enough in the air to execute this move. The armored knight retreated, standing beside the woman again. Mattai's bisected body fell into the hole on the roof as it spurted blood from the cross-section. The sorcerers headed toward the hole immediately. Mattai-sama. "No way. The ones who will die are you guys." "The army of angels that protect the holy city is." The angels around the sorcerers vanished one by one. "So, Boryunji. Let's go back, my dear knight. We already completed our job, right? To answer the woman, the tall swordsman in full plate armor nodded. Act 4:17, The Fall of the Holy City 1. Chapter 17, The Fall of the Holy City 1. Lambert ran around the Holy City, killing every enhanced demonic insect he could find. The city was already littered with corpses, no living being could be seen around him. The corpses of the insects that kept gushing out had already flooded the streets of the Holy City. Even though the castigue had already died, the enhanced demonic insects never stopped propagating. In fact, they looked even more lively since losing their master. I guess Gu is still alive. Knight of Blood Mist made his move in order to save Gu. Then, the former left since he had already accomplished his mission. Lambert was quite sure that he had smashed Gus' head. But Lambert was already familiar with this kind of tenacity since it happened so many times during the 8 countries unification war. Sorcerers that should have already died by his hand reappeared again later. The first on the list among them was Tommy Leun, who was obsessed with Lambert for some reason. Upon closer inspection, the enhanced demonic insects were completely fixated on devouring the corpses. Meanwhile, the Inquisition squad was nowhere in sight. Lambert judged that the sorcerers from the Inquisition squad wouldn't be defeated by the likes of enhanced demonic insects that were weak enough to be beaten to death by a normal person. 8 wise men. Letting that man in black armor escape was a huge blunder. That guy might have already eliminated the biggest hitters of the Inquisition squad. The man in black armor, the Knight of Blood Mist, could match Lambert in a frontal sword fight. No one in Heinstier could stop that man's sword or pierce through the defenses of his dull right armor. My current priority is that man in black armor, and I need to confirm the death of Gu. I'm also curious about the people creeping in the underground waterway, but let's forget about the last matter for now and focus on the first 2. And, just as expected, Lambert had too much on his plate. It would make things easier for him if he had more info like the number of 8 wise men, but he had no idea who was still alive, not to mention that one of the 4 great sages, Filippo, had already been killed. In addition, seeing that the number of angels fighting the enhanced demonic insects had decreased, he assumed that Matai had already been killed, too. Suddenly, a beast-shaped flame rushed at Lambert. Lambert dispersed the flame beast with a swing of his sword, bisecting it down the middle. You again, huh? Lambert glared at the man who stood before him. It was one of the 4 great sages, Johann. He could see Johann's mouth moving through the gap in the latter's broken mask. Look what happened to this holy city. Do you really think you can still waste your time chasing me around? Johann silently pointed his cane at Lambert. I already told you, but I will come for you again after I'm done with my business. Seeing you blatantly ignore the citizens of the holy city, are you telling me to dispose of you as soon as possible for being an eyesore who keeps bothering me? Think a little bit. You're way too sinister. There's no need for me to let you go since you will definitely kill Cardinal Zebediah after this incident. I never said I was going to kill him. Johann smirked upon hearing that. No, you will definitely kill Cardinal Zebediah. With that righteous indignation of yours, you surely cannot overlook his deeds. However, his methods are necessary for the current Trios kingdom. Tell me, how are you going to fight Devil's Piper once we, the Inquisition squad, are gone? Are you going to burn the citizens of this city just to lure those people out? Johann fell into a brief silence before gripping his cane more firmly. Yes, that's the plan. Hearing Johann's answer, Lambert lowered his great sword. Johann visibly stiffened upon seeing Lambert's action. Are you looking down on me for committing such cruel acts in the name of justice? I'm not laughing at you. One who can talk about justice while murdering innocent people without even batting an eye is nothing but a madman. Lambert shook his head and returned his great sword to its sheath. This is my answer to your previous worry. Having turned into a corpse long ago, I keep putting importance in the corpses that keep piling up. I have no right to judge you and your organization. The current era was different from Lambert's era. He definitely couldn't appear in the forefront of history and exert his influence. It was also a fact that the current kingdom couldn't face Devil's Piper head-on. For that reason, Lambert couldn't just bring himself to get rid of a person who went as far as ridding themselves of kindness for the betterment of the kingdom. I'll give you my promise. I won't kill Zebediah if he turns out to be a man worthy of respect like you. Move aside, Johann. Your side already lost 2 of the 4 great sages. At that moment, Johann was trying to find an opening to attack Lambert again, but he already fell to his knees before he realized it. From the very beginning, Johann had always suppressed his own feelings to complete his missions, earning him numerous achievements as the manager of the Inquisition Squad. Being slandered as a group of terrifying devils, he couldn't do anything but trust in the path he chose. Being able to gain the approval from someone of Lambert's caliber was truly a blessing for Johann. But still, I have to eliminate this undead right here. That is what I'm supposed to do as one of the 4 great sages. Despite already falling on his knees, Johann glared at Lambert. This time, the tall figure clad in full plate armor seemed to be far bigger than the first time they met. It was as if Lambert was such an unreachable existence. Let me ask one last question. I sensed numerous presences in the underground waterway. Can you tell me about that? Lambert asked such a question. Lambert recalled the unpleasant presence beneath his foot, but seeing that the 8 wise men were rampaging on the surface, he was too preoccupied to worry about the matter that happened underground. But if Johann knew what happened under the holy city, Lambert might have to change his priorities. Underground. Numerous presences? At that moment, color drained from Johann's face. So there really is something underground, eh? That concerns only the upper echelon of the Inquisition Squad. That's not to say we are giving up on hunting you down. As long as you keep aiming for Cardinal Zebedee, we will surely meet again. And when that happens, I will hunt you down along with the last member of the 4 great sages, Simon Sama. Johann retreated. Seeing that, Lambert also turned around and went in the opposite direction of Johann. After hearing Johann's remark, Lambert had pretty much guessed the identity of the mysterious presence underground. No doubt about it, there was a hidden passage in the underground waterway to escape from the holy city for this kind of situation. Although it was nothing more than a guess, he had already confirmed the truth by seeing Johann's reaction. And now, as if to prevent Zebedee from using that route, one of the 8 wise men most likely had prepared a trap to corner Zebedee and kill him. Rather than worry about Zebedee's situation underground, Lambert's priority was to hunt down Gu, whose whereabouts were unknown, and the Knight of Blood Mist who might still be wandering around somewhere above ground. Act 4:18, The Fall of the Holy City 2. Chapter 18, The Fall of the Holy City 2. When Lambert ran around, hunting down the enhanced demonic insects, a thunderous sound resounded from afar. He stopped in the midst of killing another demon, looking up as he glared toward the direction of the thunderous sound. The building collapsed, and a vortex of sand and dust appeared from underground. A while later, a giant bug, longer than 10 meters, appeared from inside the vortex. The outer skin of the bug was light brown. It had countless wart-like protrusions on its entire body. It also had a lot of feelers on its body. On the tips of those feelers were the skewered bodies of sorcerers from the Inquisition Squad. The mysterious bug vanished into particles of light, leaving only the vortex in its wake. Just when I was wondering where he was, I finally caught his tail. He's still alive. You summoned the starving destroyer, Abaddon, using banquet of ravenous insects in front of Lambert before. And though it was different from Abaddon, you had undoubtedly summoned a high-ranking spirit again by using the corpses of the enhanced demonic insects. You should have already died, but he somehow survived while the Knight of Blood Mist bought him time. Perhaps he used some sort of possession technique just like Charlob, the spinner of the truth. But killing him isn't that difficult as long as I know his methods. Lambert was aware that killing someone with unknown abilities was a tough job. For example, in his battle against Charlob, whose real body was a lump of ionization mana, Lambert had to use a roundabout way to lower his opponent's vigilance. But in this case, you used the gap created by the Knight of Blood Mist to escape. This time, I have to kill him for sure. If Gyu really goes all out, no one will escape. Lambert unsheathed his great sword, running in the direction where the spirits of the insect realm appeared. By the time he arrived, the place had already become a mass graveyard for the enhanced demonic insects. Countless insect corpses were scattered on the floor. Additionally, the corpses of humans who died in atrocious ways were scattered all over the place. Lambert scanned around quietly. Due to his undead ability to sense the flow of mana, he felt Gus' powerful mana. But there was a bright red subspecies with long feelers among the enhanced demonic insects, and that insect released strange mana which disturbed his sensing, making him lose the accurate position of his opponent. Gu had also sensed Lambert's presence. It seemed he had chosen to stand and fight instead of running. "Is someone there?" Lambert focused his attention to the direction of the voice. There was a woman collapsed beneath the corpses of enhanced demonic insects. Where her eyes should have been, there were just bloody holes, perhaps eaten by the enhanced demonic insects. Maybe the enhanced demonic insects had already left their eggs inside the woman's body. Most likely, her body had already been turned into a nest of their larvae. Not to mention that her wound was quite deep too. She wouldn't survive for too long. Please, I have one last request. Sorry, but I have no leeway to save you. But I'll at least end your misery. My daughter? My daughter? She should be nearby. Please save her. Lambert shifted his attention to the mountain of enhanced demonic insects, walking closer to it. She was already beyond saving. Yeah, she fainted, but she's safe and sound. Leave her to me. The moment Lambert said this, the woman suddenly jumped upward, spewing a huge, green, and poisonous-looking centipede from her mouth. He stopped the centipede with the blade of his great sword, stepping forward and thrusting his sword into the insect. Thanks to the centipede, the woman barely managed to dodge to the side, but the blade gouged her left shoulder. That attack sent a spray of blood and bone fragments in the air, her arm barely hanging on by the skin. But her face was painted with the color of madness instead of pain. How kind of you. But it seems you're weak to unexpected tactics. The woman's face changed. As expected, so it's you. Gu. As expected? You just hate to admit that you're a sore loser. If you understand that, you wouldn't hesitate to cut down this body of mine. And if you did that, you'd aim for another part of my body, right? The woman, or rather, Gu, spoke at Lambert as she grabbed her gouged arm, tore it off, and threw it on the ground with smile. I won't do something like abandon the citizens for no good reason. Compared to the other people who lived through that era, you're too naive. And you only caused worse damage by failing to kill me. That might be the case, but you're going to die for sure. Lambert pointed his great sword at Gu. Maybe because of Lambert's words or his presence, the smile on Gus's face vanished. Acknowledging the weakness of the people who must be protected, the 4 demon generals are the embodiment of that ideal. I have no intention to compare principles with you people. Gus opened her mouth after a brief silence. You're the best, oh great demon general. You have something that I lack. Gus' mouth formed a self-deprecating smile. It was different from the mocking smile that she showed until now. The man who stood before her was unwavering with his principles to the point that not even death could shake him. He was someone whom she aspired to become, yet failed. But the way you dealt with me is a bit too naive. Although I'm really ashamed to rely on the Night of Blood Mist buying time to save my life. I won't underestimate you again. I don't know if you've already noticed or not, but the reason why I summoned the spirit that killed the members of the Inquisition squad a while ago was precisely to invite you here. The throbbing blood vessel on Gus' face made her expression far more terrifying than before. I've prepared mountains of enhanced demonic insect corpses just to kill you. In this way, I can summon as many high-ranking spirits as I want. Not only that, I still have an ace in the hole. Now behold, the essence of the curse of the Huda tribe. Act 4:19. The Fall of the Holy City 3. Chapter 19, The Fall of the Holy City 3. To cope with Lambert's swordcraft, Gu used the ruined buildings to move about randomly while closing in on him. The strangely nimble Gu was doing her best to avoid a direct clash with Lambert. No matter how many times the blade grazed her limbs or flank, Gu kept moving without losing her cool. Gu used the ceiling of the collapsed building to dodge Lambert's thrust. Her movements betrayed Lambert's expectations. She was aiming for a one-shot reversal the moment she saw an opening in Lambert's defenses. Or so it was supposed to be. However, Lambert didn't even hesitate to strike the ceiling with his great sword, halting her usage of it. Gu abandoned her original plan and retreated immediately. You really never show any opening. I don't even know where to attack you. Gu spoke with a shrill voice. Even though her gender was different from before, she didn't seem uncomfortable with her new body. Evidently, she was quite accustomed to her new body. Lambert closed the distance between him and Gu at once, putting the latter within the range of his great sword. Theoretically speaking, Lambert's huge weapon put him at a disadvantage at this range. Lambert suddenly retreated. He set his great sword behind his back, the tip of it pointing at Gu. As expected, you didn't fall for such a paltry trick. Gu twisted her body, dodging Lambert's sword as she stretched out her right arm. Lambert's great sword sliced her right arm, and as the sliced right arm swelled in size, dozens of wasps appeared from within. The wasps weren't poisonous. Their main weapon was the curse in their needles that was strong enough to make any ordinary person lose their mind with a single graze. Even though Gu was more skillful in close combat, she couldn't afford to fight Lambert with her bare hands. But if the wasps were to attack Lambert, she might be able to use the opening to finish him off. Lambert swung down his great sword. Then, Lambert brandished his great sword again, aiming at Gu. It happened in less than a second. Gu glared at him. This was the moment of truth. But Lambert used the force of his swing to jump up, raising his right foot. So this distance was for this, eh? Gu tried to retreat, but she failed since the distance between them was simply too close. Lambert's kick made full use of the weight of his organ armor, and it landed right on Gus' abdomen with a sickening sound. The sound of numerous bones breaking resounded from Gus' body as Lambert's kick sent her flying. Her body flew across the floor of the collapsed building, only stopping after her body drilled into the collapsed wall. Lambert's kick almost pulverized all of the bones in Gus' body. Even her head was already twisted at an impossible angle. Lambert easily saw through the movements of two wasps flying on top of him and bisected them in just 2 slashes. Gu, on the other hand, was completely incapacitated during that moment, preventing her from meddling in Lambert's battle against the wasps. Lambert then brandished his great sword toward Gu, whose body had become nothing more than a lump of meat. His slash bisected her in 2 right down her chest. Cream-colored liquid mixed with blood poured out from the cross-section. The air in her body came out, resulting in her body crumbling down. The inside of her body was hollow. It's just an empty husk. At that moment, a magic circle formed around the husk. Banquet of ravenous insects. The voice of a girl resounded from beneath him. The corpses of enhanced demonic insects lined up in formation, burning to ash as the magic circle released a dark glow. Lambert recalled the attack from underground that killed Filippo, so he jumped up right away. Heed my call and come to this world, starving destroyer Abaddon. A fat and huge centipede with the head shaped like a skull emerged from the spirit realm. Abaddon broke out from the ground. This marked the second time Lambert fought Abaddon. Gu, in the form of a young girl, was standing right on top of Abaddon's head. She really had been rejuvenated again. Just like the previous time. It was a truly convenient skill that cancelled the damage dealt by casting off her husk, but she got younger as a result. The age of the physical body of the current Gu was somewhere in her early teens, meaning that the current her only had one more chance to molt. She was probably at her limit right now. Once she molted again, her body would become far too young to unleash her full potential. Once that happened, Gu would become completely powerless in front of Lambert. Lambert was already looking at her from the air. Abaddon's skull was right below him. Abaddon stretched its head as if snarling angrily at Lambert. Lambert spun his body in midair, making full use of his center of gravity, and moved away from Abaddon's fangs. He used that opening to unleash a slash toward the skull of Abaddon. But his slash was ineffective against its tough skull. It's futile. You think Abaddon can be defeated by mere brute force? The next moment, Lambert spun again in midair with the contact point between his greatsword and Abaddon's skull as the fulcrum. The reason why Lambert attacked Abaddon's skull wasn't to kill the monster. Rather, it was to use it as a stepping stone to reach his opponent's location. Naturally, his opponent was Gu, who stood on the nape of Abaddon's neck. Lambert forcefully descended from the back of Abaddon's head, brandishing his greatsword at Gu. Impossible. Gu raised a disbelief voice. Her planned sure-kill attack from an unreachable elevation aside, she ended up having the tables turned against her in the most unexpected way. You failed because you used the same spirit that I had seen before. Gu leapt back, retreating as far as possible from Lambert. But Lambert's greatsword was faster. It silently gouged into her abdomen. At that moment, the back of her body opened up, and an even younger girl popped out from within. She used her last chance to molt to save herself from peril. Dinner of slaughter a spider. A huge magic circle formed around her. Lots of enhanced demonic insect corpses twitched on their own. It wasn't a ritual to summon Abaddon. He. You really took the bait, eh? With this, you have nowhere else to escape. You thought I didn't know that you were waiting for this moment to kill me, huh? You saw what happened last time, so you anticipated the same plan and prepared a trap accordingly. Too bad, you've been dancing in the palm of my hand all this time. Now a little girl, Gu was laughing all the while. Act 4:20, The Fall of the Holy City 4. Chapter 20, The Fall of the Holy City 4. Due to the dinner of slaughter spider ritual, the floating corpses of the enhanced demonic insects were suddenly mummified. From the very beginning, you were aiming for this moment. Originally, Gu was no match against Lambert in close combat, but she had the ritual to summon high-ranking spirits using the corpses of enhanced demonic insects to compensate for that shortcoming. The reason why she didn't play this card immediately was to wait for the perfect time to kill Lambert. A lot of enhanced demonic insects were needed for the summoning ritual. Performing the summonings in quick succession meant that she might exhaust the number of enhanced demonic insects immediately. She also needed to lure Lambert, and then, just as Gu had predicted, she executed consecutive summonings once Lambert couldn't move freely on top of Abaddon's skull. Heed my call and come to this world, unseen malice at Larchnaka. A giant spider monster arose between Lambert and Gu. At the same time, the corpses of enhanced demonic insects that were floating around stopped unnaturally as if held by some sort of power. Even when Lambert tried to retreat, he felt something tangling on his feet, preventing him from jumping. Thread. Correct. It's at Larchnaka's invisible thread. The area around its host is protected by the toughest thread in the world. Quickly, Lambert stabbed his great sword into Abaddon to keep his balance. Abaddon reared its head, butting against Lambert, who was trapped in Larchnaka's spiderwebs. If Lambert hadn't caught the blow with his great sword, he might have been killed by the impact, even with his tough organ armor. Lambert flipped in midair, but he felt something was amiss with his feet. He spun his body and swept the area under his feet with his sword. Thus, his sword severed the web of Larchnaka. He regained his freedom, for now. But once he fell, he would become the victim of the thread again. Although Abaddon could forcefully retract its head from the nest, the difference between Lambert and Abaddon was too overwhelming. As if that wasn't bad enough, Abaddon was firmly on the ground, while Lambert had no choice but to use the nest. This difference made it even more difficult for him to exhibit his full strength due to the fragile footing. The moment Lambert landed, he spun around and cut the outstretched thread with his sword and stepped forward. He kept doing this, forcing himself to move around. Chasing right behind Lambert, Abaddon tried to headbutt him again. Abaddon's charge shook the nest. Lambert had a hard time moving freely, so he moved closer to Larchnaka, who had been staying still since a while ago. The 8 eyes of the giant spider were glowing red. Gu was waiting right behind the spider. Ha, come here. Try your best to dodge Abaddon and Larchnaka. I'm waiting for you on top of this nest. Larchnaka stretched its huge leg toward Lambert, but he parried the leg with his great sword. He managed to wound the spider's leg, but it was nothing more than a scratch. The surface of its body is really tough. I guess a direct attack against the high-ranking spirit is impossible. Larchnaka didn't use its feet to attack Lambert again after the latter easily parried its leg strike. Instead, it brought its face closer toward Lambert as if trying to eat Lambert. Seeing that, Lambert threw his great sword into its mouth. As the huge blade pierced its mouth, Larchnaka writhed in pain. The body fluid that was discharged from Larchnaka's mouth rained down incessantly on Lambert. Gu was looking dumbfoundedly at Larchnaka. However, I still have the high ground. Although they can't remain in this plane for long due to the simple ritual, you can't win unless Larchnaka and Abaddon both vanish. Let's see how much longer you can struggle without your great sword. Lambert suddenly pulled his arm. At that moment, his great sword came flying from Larchnaka's mouth, back into his hand. Before he had thrown his great sword, he had coiled Larchnaka's thread around the blade. Thus, Lambert leapt onto Larchnaka's back as it rampaged in pain. And then, without shred of hesitation, he threw his great sword toward Gu. As Gu stretched her arms forward to protect her body, the sword's blade had finally arrived. Even though she managed to dodge the incoming blade in time, her arms were gouged off at her shoulders. Now, she was akin to a maimed little girl on the verge of death. Gus' flank stuck into the wall of the tall building. That was close. I really thought I was going to die. Lambert jumped after his great sword to chase after Gu. He pulled the thread that coiled around the blade, drawing the sword that was stuck into the wall back to him. Seeing the incoming mass of metal, Gu allowed her body to fall, but Lambert didn't let her go. He stretched his fingers and stabbed the little girl through her heart. Her body was rent asunder once again, stuck to the wall while her head fell on top of Atlachnaka's nest. At that moment, Atlachnaka, its nest, and Abaddon vanished, resulting in her head falling even further down. Lambert stabbed his sword into the wall, stepping on the blade and using it as a platform as it descended. "You cornered me multiple times in this place. This is something that has never happened in the last 200 years. The lips of the girl moved. Light had faded from her eyes. Undoubtedly, she had already died. A pair of huge wings suddenly burst from the back of her head. A long and sleek body came forth. In front of the body was a pair of sharp scythes facing downward. The grotesque monster then landed on the ground. Its body was similar to that of a purple ant. The lips of the girl that remained on its head then started to move. Its huge insectoid eyes, which looked like they were about to burst, were glaring at Lambert. Before the Hudo tribe was annihilated, the last alchemical parasitic insect they created was filled with their grudge and anger. "That insect is me. You can say that I'm the culmination of the Hudo tribe's hexing technique itself." "What are you doing?" "Come, are you getting cold feet now?" "Even if I escape from this situation, I won't be able to move for a long time. So, let's settle this once and for all." Act 421. The Fall of the Holy City 5. Chapter 21. The Fall of the Holy City 5. Yu glared angrily at Lambert the moment the latter landed on the ground. Although he had no idea why Yu spoke of her origin, seeing she didn't try to escape, he realized that she might be telling the truth. The Hudo tribe conceived their children by tearing the stomachs or pregnant women and stuffed them to the brim with numerous insects. The woman's limbs would then be cut off, and they were suspended in the air. Yu leapt from the ground, spreading her wings. She was flying at an extremely low altitude, almost touching the ground and circling around to attack Lambert's flank. The insects would then consume the child save for their brains and internal organs. Those insects would then suspend their activities. The body of the mother received treatment to give birth to that monster. Lambert raised his great sword, the tip of his sword always tracking Gus' movements. The moment of the monster's birth, the mother dies. Thus, I become Yu. Fearing their knowledge would vanish, the Hudo tribe entrusted their future to a representative. That was why, before their annihilation, the Hudo tribe sealed all of their techniques into parasitic insects that could hijack another creature. Yu kept moving around Lambert, not stopping even once. She kept speaking in the little girl's voice. "My goal is to keep using the Hudo tribe's hexing to spread terror in this kingdom. With that, I can give meaning as the Hudo tribe's last member." There was no other meaning behind her goal. The Hudo tribe had most likely realized that too, but they couldn't accept the fact that their hexing technique, which had been polished for hundreds of years, would vanish along with the country they served just because the said country accidentally blew up from the inside. Thus, the Hudo tribe was stigmatized as being the Black Star. What do you think? It's repulsive, right? It was a crazy era, after all. Finally, Lambert replied to Yu. "Then, that duty has to meet its end today." At that remark, she grinned. "The one who will die is you, Demon General." Yu slipped into Lambert's blind spot and swung her scythe toward his head. Lambert turned around immediately as if he had seen through Gus' tactics, blocking the incoming scythe with his great sword. Gus' body staggered in midair, but she used her wings to fly up and unleashed another attack from above his head. Lambert retreated to dodge the incoming attack, unleashing a slash toward the other party's abdomen. Yu also retreated to dodge that slash. "My body couldn't adapt to the air. In fact, touching the air directly caused the condition of my body to deteriorate. On the other hand, I won't age when I'm parasitizing someone. I can live forever and spread my tribe's curse for eternity. That's why I'm going to kill you here and survive to spread my reign of terror." The girl's mouth then opened really wide. Yu bent forward while staying in midair. Then, she ran past Lambert's side with even faster speed than before. It was then followed by a loud metallic sound less than a moment later. It wasn't his sword. The sound came from his armor. Lambert's helmet fell to the ground. There was a track where Yu passed by on the ground. Those traces emitted faint smoke due to friction. "How's that? I'm the fastest of the Hudo tribe. Are you giving up now, Demonch?" The girl's face suddenly burst open. Her left eyes were gouged. Her brain spilled outside, exposing the insect head inside. Lambert wasn't the only one who received the attack. He also nailed an attack as Yu skidded past him. "It seems you've talked for long enough. Now, it's time to put that girl to sleep." His eyes were locking on Yu. "That ain't just any sword, eh?" "Ha, only noticed now. I guess. What remained of that girl's lips spoke while moving her exposed jawbone. You turned around slowly toward Lambert. The next attack would decide the outcome of the battle. I'm bearing their malice. I won't be defeated that easily. Such useless baggage you carry there. You speak as if you know it yourself. Well, talking is much easier than acting. The girl's lips curled up. I have never thought about abandoning it. I must put an end to it. Once again, you swung her scythe at Lambert. Lambert had also swung his great sword. Gus' scythe bisected along with her body. Her upper body flew up in the air, and finally fell to the ground. Gus' lower half crumbled down. Foo-fa-foo, it's finally over. That might not be the end they wished. Lambert stepped on Gus' head as she spoke. Every once in a while, I would have this strange dream. Born as a normal kid, from the womb of a normal woman, blessed by the people around me. I don't know why I always cry whenever I see such a dream. It's a dream, and yet, why do I keep seeing it even after living for more than 200 years? That's funny, right? The girl's mask crumbled, revealing the true face behind it. It was the terrifying, grotesque face of an insect. May you have a nice dream. Lambert's great sword descended, smashing Gus' head. Lambert looked around. The enhanced demonic insects that were still alive finally stopped moving. They died following the death of the Hex user. Lambert placed his helmet back on his head, turned around, and walked away from Gus' corpse. Perhaps now, the 8 wise men and the remaining members of the 4 great sages will start their real battle involving Cardinal Zebedee, who escaped choosing the underground tunnel. Act 4:22, Night of Blood Mist 1. Chapter 22, Night of Blood Mist 1. Johann, one of the 4 great sages, was running in the middle of the desolated holy city, heading toward the central area. Let me ask one last question. I sensed numerous presences in the underground waterway. Can you tell me about that? He suddenly recalled the question from the Revenant Knight. Johann couldn't answer that question. The reason for this was that Cardinal Zebedee, who was in the passages, was the Revenant Knight's target. Although the Revenant Knight seemed to guess the general situation based on Johann's reaction, he just kept quiet without saying anything. The underground passage below Heinstier was an escape route for a small number of the upper class in case of invasion. It was created secretly by order of the church by using the sinners as their manpower. And when it was done, all the sinners who made the passages were killed to keep the secret. After Heinstier was raided by Devil's Piper, Simon, the leader of the 4 great sages, made arrangements so that Cardinal Zebedee could escape from the city with his most elite subordinates. But that alone didn't explain the numerous presences that the knight mentioned. After all, Cardinal Zebedee, Simon, and the subordinates should be no more than 10 people. Numerous implied there were far more people, perhaps 20 to 30. Also, there was no way that many people could enter the secret underground passage. There was only one explanation for that situation. An unexpected situation had occurred. A certain uninvited group of people had already infiltrated the passage with ill intentions. That was the only conclusion. Nevertheless, that Revenant Knight managed to glean that information from Johann's expression, a feat quite remarkable since Johann had barely moved. Rather, if the Revenant Knight really did spread that kind of information, there would undoubtedly be suspicion. The Revenant Knight wanted to meet Cardinal Zebedee. That was why, from Johann's perspective as one of the 4 great sages, the former was the enemy. Johann couldn't let an unknown undead meet Cardinal Zebedee. But Johann also realized a contradiction, the fact that the undead who called himself a mere shadow of Lambert, history's greatest traitor, would have any reason to lie despite his overwhelming advantage against Johann. His words carried some kind of dignity that would make the others believe him almost unconditionally. Johann's birthplace was burned down by a sorcerer researching necromancy during his childhood. Later on, Cardinal Zebedee, recognizing the hatred in Johann's eyes, picked him up, forced him into grueling training to kill his emotions, and made him kill anyone who opposed the church's policies. Over time, Johann acquired one achievement after another, allowing him to be recognized as one of the 4 great sages. The number of people ridiculing the Inquisition squad as heartless killing tools was by no means small. Johann himself knew and accepted that fact. And yet, the Revenant Knight saw through the deepest part of Johann's mind, revealing a secret he never told to anyone. Cursing aside, the former even showed an understanding, knowing very well that the latter had taken the matter upon himself. He did that all with just a simple exchange. Johann doubted that the Revenant Knight said those words just to pull some information from the latter. But how did so many people manage to get into the secret underground passage? Could it be that the intruder this time isn't just some small fry of Devil's Piper? Or else, is it just the presence of the manipulated insects? From the very beginning, Devil's Piper was the kind of organization that didn't even hesitate to kill its own members, from Angel of Death, who attacked Tietenberg, the region ruled by Viscount Legale. Since the raid on Heinstier had to be done without making too many sacrifices on their side, the ones hailed as the 8 wise men would also make a move. But the underground passage beneath Heinstier was a complicated web of passageways. Even if one route was compromised, numerous others would also lead outside. In addition, Simon, who acted as the bodyguard of Cardinal Zebedee, had excellent perception due to being a sorcerer. The only way to corner Simon and the others was by using human wave tactics. The situation isn't that clear yet, but could it be that some of the higher-ups of the church have sold out the church? If Devil's Piper assassinates Cardinal Zebedee, there is only one conclusion: there must have been a leak. But perhaps, did our enemy extract the memories of the undead? Finally, Johann arrived at his destination, the tall white tower. It was called the Sleeping Tower. It was built to comfort the souls of martyred believers. The basement of this tower was one of the entrances to the underground passage. One of the 4 great sages will definitely come to this place. It seems my hunch was right. A low voice resounded in the surrounding area. A knight donned in black armor descended from the 3rd floor of the Sleeping Tower, blocking Johann. Seeing that knight's presence reminded Johann of the brutish knight he met before, but the knight before him had a fatal weakness, namely, his non-existent left arm. "You're one of the 4 great sages, Johann, I presume." Filippo and Matthias' corpses have already been confirmed. Rose of Subkingdom has already entered the underground waterway to go after Zebedee and Simon. Killing you will put an end to the Inquisition squad. Johann looked at the black-armored man before him in silence, focusing on the latter's missing left arm. "Worrying about me, eh? I assure you that it's nothing more than a useless worry. I might have lost my left arm, but spare me the sympathy. I've already sold my body and soul to the devil." After he said this, the man in black armor pulled a great sword as tall as him and swung it freely. "Your worry is unnecessary. Don't you think that using a grand spell to kill an ant is just a waste of resources? I'm one of the 8 wise men, the Knight of Blood Mist. Your death will close the curtain of this act. Now come and get me." Act 4:23, Knight of Blood Mist 2. Chapter 23, Knight of Blood Mist 2. The black-armored knight slashed at Johann. "Heed my call and come from the realm of light." Flame Prison Angel, Amifatnas. 2 spirits from the realm of light appeared before Johann. The gaping hole where its face should have been was facing the black-armored knight, as if glaring at the latter. Both inhabitants of the spirit world raised their arms. Their bodies were clad in hellfire. And then, they leapt toward the black-armored knight as if trying to protect Johann. How foolish! The black-armored knight held his great sword aloft with one hand. The 2 spirits moved around for a pincer attack. The black-armored knight thrust his great sword forward, piercing the first spirit. Just like that, he raised his sword as he pulled it back, slashing the body of the spirit from its abdomen. The spirit split into 2, grumbling to the ground. The second spirit who came from behind stretched its blazing red hand, touching the back of the black-armored knight. The surface of the black-armored knight's armor warped lightly due to the high heat. But at the same time, the black-armored knight pulled his sword, spinning around and slashing the arm of the second spirit. He hit its head with a second slash, and his third swept across its face. His fourth strike was aimed at its chest. In just a moment, the spirit had been decapitated, fading into particles of light immediately. "Yeah, foolish indeed." The black-armored knight muttered this. Johann cast a glance at the transformation metal on the back of the black-armored knight. He is a terrifying swordsman. In terms of abilities, he is definitely far more powerful than me, Filippo, or Mattai. But that doesn't mean the angel's hellfire won't work on Knight of Blood Mist. Since that was the case, he concluded that it was possible to destroy the armor along with the person in it. The black-armored knight remained calm and collected. However, he could feel the heat from the warped part of his armor. Surely the person inside was suffering from a large scald wound. "Heed my call and come from the realm of light." Flame Prison Angel, Amifatnas. Johann summoned his spirit again. This time, 4 spirits from the realm of light appeared before Johann. Just like before, 4 spirits clad in hellfire armor circled around the black-armored knight. Still using those toys, the black-armored knight swung his great sword with one hand, breaking through the encirclement from all sides. Decapitated heads and mangled limbs littered the ground, but the spirit whose face was smashed by the black-armored knight's great sword managed to survive the blow. It went into the black-armored knight's blind spot, hugging him from behind. Black smoke rose from the black-armored knight. "I told you before, it's a foolish attempt." The black-armored knight broke free from the hold, turning around, raising his feet, and trampling down on the head of the fallen spirit. Unable to fight back, the spirit vanished along with particles of light. Even against twice as many spirits, the knight could defeat all his foes in mere seconds. However, there was a huge depression left in the black-armored knight's armor from where he had been grabbed. The reason behind this was the hellfire of the flame prison angel, Amifatnas. Johann couldn't control a lot of spirits like Matai. However, the flame prison angel, Amifatnas, was of a far higher rank than the night angel, Fenmelkus, summoned by Matai. Although Amifatnas could shoot flames, the flames of its armor could maintain an even higher temperature. Any normal human who was touched by those flames would turn into a cinder in less than a second. The metal joint of the waist part melted with the previous attack. That should be enough to hinder his movements. "I just need to keep using this method to kill this man. I have to get rid of him quickly and regroup with Cardinal Zebediah and the others." Something happened the moment Johann pondered that. The deformed part of the armor suddenly moved on its own. It turned into liquid metal and then returned to its original state as if the previous deformation had never happened. Johann couldn't believe what he saw just now. But the harsh reality was laid out right before his very eyes. Don't tell me, is that the infamous cursed metal Delrite? Johann happened to know about the cursed metal. During the 8 countries unification war, Delrite was dubbed a cursed metal since it led to the destruction of the kingdoms. To repair itself, it sucked the mana from its wearer. Although it was hailed as an invincible armor at one point, many knights who couldn't withstand the absorption rate of the mana ended up dying in their armor as dried-up corpses. Correct. It seems you're really surprised. But calling it cursed is where you're wrong. This armor simply can't be used by humans. But no doubt about it, the heat passed through and warped the armor. That armor should be akin to burning a coffin for its wearer due to the angel's hellfire. And yet, it's as if this guy didn't feel the heat at all. What became of your body inside that armor? How can you stay calm and collected inside such searing armor? The black-armored knight laughing scornfully upon hearing Johann's question. Do you really think I'm going to answer? You might be able to beat me with that knowledge after all. Enough with the chit-chat. Summon that 3-headed archangel. The preliminary investigation about you guys has already been done. You might be able to defeat me if you summon it, you know. The black-armored knight raised his great sword with his remaining arm. Johann looked at the enemy before him. That armor doesn't seem empty. If the armor was really empty, the missing arm should have been restored due to the properties of Delrite. It's definitely not something as simple as having superior regenerative power. It's okay even if you're unwilling to summon it. I'll be looking for Lambert again once I kill you. Rose of Subkingdom is a rather meticulous and cruel woman after all. Since she has already entered the underground passage, Zebediah won't be able to escape. The black-armored knight readied his great sword, closing in on Johann. O flame, become a tiger. Johann raised the palm of his hand toward the black-armored knight. The flame that was conjured by his sorcery became 5 tigers. The beasts of flames ran straight toward the black-armored knight. Why are you using such useless magic now of all times? The black-armored knight walked steadily as he brandished his great sword. In a single strike, he cut down the incoming beasts. Johann circled around quickly behind the black-armored knight by using the beasts of flames as his decoys, heading into the Tower of Rest. The black-armored knight could only glare dumbfoundedly as he saw the back of Johann. What a coward! What a huge disappointment! One of the 4 great sages is actually a coward who turns his back to his enemy. Do you really think I'll let you escape? The black-armored knight chased after Johann into the Tower of Rest. Act 424, Night of Blood Mist 3, Chapter 24, Night of Blood Mist 3. Carved into the inner walls of the Tower of Rest, there was depicted the legend of the Heinz faith. Between the gaps in this legend were written the names of martyrs. Additionally, There was a spiral staircase that stretched all the way to the ceiling. Johann ran up that spiral staircase. However, the Knight of Blood Mist followed slowly from behind. "Don't you guys consider this place holy? You're the shame of all priests. Come down obediently to fight me. Don't disappoint me even more." The interior of the tower was quite simple. There was nowhere to place a hidden passage. It was obvious that, no matter what, one wouldn't be able to hide. That was why the Knight of Blood Mist didn't chase after Johann in a hurry. Rather, he walked calmly while aware of the possibility of a trap. "Summon your Archangel now. Someone like you isn't even a worthy opponent for me," the Knight of Blood Mist called out to Johann from time to time while following the latter carefully. But Johann ignored him and kept running. It didn't take too long for them to reach the halfway point. "Make your decision. At the very least, you should be able to meet your god with pride." This time, Johann tossed a fireball from above toward the Knight of Blood Mist. That fireball burned one part of the staircase, destroying it. Seeing the Knight of Blood Mist falter, Johann fired a second fireball at the former's back. The stairs in front of the Knight of Blood Mist burst apart, grumbling down. Johann kept running as he pointed the palm of his hand at the Knight of Blood Mist. The Knight of Blood Mist looked up at Johann. "So this is your aim all along?" The third fireball was aimed at his helmet. "If this childish tactic is your trump card, then you can start the countdown of your life, pitiful great sage. You are burning the names of your predecessors carved into the wall as you escape like a coward." The black-armored knight stepped on the grumbling staircase. However, he jumped over the grumbling stairs and a wall of fire, landing on the ground before him. The stray fireball burned and destroyed the stairs of a different level. "So, what are you going to do?" "I'm bored of this game of cat and mouse." After Johann confirmed that the Knight of Blood Mist dodged the fireball, he ran up the spiral staircase again. The Knight of Blood Mist swung his great sword, leaving a deep chasm along the wall. The wall crumbled down, making it possible to see the scenery outside. "It's time to give up and become one of the stains of this tower. Your flame might be able to penetrate this right, but it's useless against me." Johann glanced down and looked at the black-armored knight, but he didn't stop running nor did he reply to the other party. The Knight of Blood Mist fixed his grip on the great sword. "We're about to reach the top, but you don't seem to have any plans." "Resistance is futile. I can take this slowly." The Knight of Blood Mist increased his speed and broke into a run. He closed the distance at once. Johann kept firing fireballs at his opponent, but the black-armored knight kept running, deftly parrying the magic into the wall. There was no way out. They were about to arrive at the ceiling. Johann increased his rate of fire. He kept firing 10 to 20 fireballs, dyeing his field of vision in a bright red color. The stairs ahead of Johann crumbled due to all the fireballs. Johann finally stopped when he reached the top of the tower. Then, he took a deep breath. Rapidly shooting fireballs while running at full speed wasn't an easy task, even for someone of Johann's caliber. After depleting his pool of mana, he had already begun drawing from his life force. The staircase was crumbling and scorched. He was convinced that it should be enough to stop the Knight of Blood Mist. "If Filippo and Mattai are truly dead, then I have to survive at all costs. I have to help Cardinal Zebeda rebuild the Inquisition squad from scratch. Even if I have to commit a sin by burning this Tower of Rest to cinders, it's a necessary sacrifice to protect this kingdom. I have to survive for those who died." Finally, Johann spoke for the first time. His cracked mask slipped from his face, fell to the ground, and revealed his bare face. He heaved a sigh and then leaned his back against the wall. "But I see, I was sad." Although his expression was the same as usual, tears were rolling down from the gaps of his sewn eyelids. The Knight of Blood Mist leapt to the end of spiral staircase as Johann said this. He stabbed his great sword into the wall and used that to run along the wall instead of using the staircase. "What a surprise. Are you actually unwilling to do this yet still force yourself? Well, in that case, I won't become a cruel demon. I'll allow you to repent for the last time." "I see, I still have some leeway." Johann hoisted his arms as he spoke. In just a moment, he deployed a huge, blazing magic circle. "You still not giving up, eh? Heed my call and come from the realm of light." Archangel of Scorched Earth, Dantalion. The giant spirit appeared in the center of the tower. It was a giant with 6 pairs of wings, holes on its 3 faces, and yet missing the lower half. Its total height was 5 meters. "The actor has finally come out. But you should have done this sooner. You're already reaching your limit. After all, Johann's face and skin had already paled. His life force was draining by the second. Overusing it without resting would result in the user becoming unable to lift even their finger, or worse, death. Surely, your attack might reach me in this confined tower of rest. So that's why you kept ascending without rest, just for this one chance. How amusing. The black-armored knight spoke with an interested voice. Dantalion hoisted its hand toward the ceiling of the tower. It was holding a scorching metal cross in its hands. The hole on its three faces were glaring at the Knight of Blood Mist. Nope, that attack won't hit. Archangel Dantalion is way too slow. Johann spoke slowly without even caring about hiding his emotions anymore. I know that. So what will you do? You guys carry the faith of this kingdom on your back. Do your best to resist the stage that we prepared. Your kind offer makes no difference. The Inquisition Squad is a hated existence. Even if we vanish, it wouldn't besmirch the dignity or faith of the Heinz faith. Naturally, we also don't expect salvation in our afterlife. Quite a lifeless fella. I will go to hell after I die for sure, but I'll drag you down with me. Although I have a mission to accomplish, it doesn't really matter if I fail to accomplish my mission. As long as I can drag you down with me, I won't allow more of your atrocities in the holy city. Dantalion stretched out its arm, locking its joints. No way, from the very beginning, you. Dantalion suddenly raised its scorching giant cross, dropping it down at the center of the tower. The tower cracked as it flared like a giant torch. I wonder what will become of your armor if it's dropped from this height. The Knight of Blood Mist quickly ran out of the tower from the cracked wall. And then, he thrust his sword into the wall. In that way, he managed to drop down while using his sword to reduce his falling speed. Excellent. But this won't be enough to kill me. Not that it'll stop me from letting you try. I'll at least remember your name. Johann clung to the back of the black-armored knight. You. How can you still move like that? Oh flame. The flames fired from Johann's hand blasted the wall through which the Knight of Blood Mist stabbed his sword. The blast threw both of them into the air. The flames rained down on the two defenseless bodies on top of a pile of rubble. Act 425, Rose of Subkingdom 1. Chapter 25, Rose of Subkingdom 1. After Lambert disposed Gu, one of the 8 wise men, he ran around the holy city, looking for an entrance to the underground tunnel, which Cardinal Zebediah used to escape from the city. If the big shots had always gathered in the cathedral at the center of the city, then there must be an entrance near there. But then, Lambert was forced to turn around upon encountering a mountain of rubble blocking his path. It seems there was a big battle in this place. Lambert murmured to himself. This mountain of rubble was the ruins of what used to be the Tower of Rest. One of the 4 great sages, Johann, had destroyed the entire building along with himself to kill the Knight of Blood Mist. Although Lambert had no knowledge of this battle, he was well aware that someone had clashed against a member of the 8 wise men in this very place, resulting in the current destruction. Next, he even guessed the identity of the other party from the scorch marks on the rubble. After losing half of its members, Johann had also ended up sacrificing himself to kill one of the 8 wise men. Lambert then recalled the figure of a passionate youth who killed his emotions behind a mask of cruelty. Although the 4 great sages did indeed qualify as the kingdom's secret weapon, they had yet to stop being human. Lambert knew that Johann wouldn't survive this. I wish I have another chance to talk with you. After muttering this, Lambert entered the ruined building. Although he should be prioritizing entering into the underground waterway, he had to make sure that the member of the 8 wise men died for sure. If they turned out to be still alive, he wouldn't miss this chance to kill them. This time, he should kill them for sure. If it was someone semi-immortal like Charlob, they would most likely escape from the destruction. Common sense was useless against sorcerers who abandoned ethics. They tried to defy death by means that no normal person would expect. Without that, something like this was enough to kill any normal person, but things would become dicey if they had an ace in the hole. Lambert brushed aside a stone with his great sword. His sharp perception ability as an undead allowed him to sense strangely ominous mana from inside. Although the member of 8 wise men's presence was so feeble, there were undoubtedly traces. Thus, he was convinced that something strange was sleeping inside the mountain of rubble. It turned out to be a suit of black armor with most of its parts already crushed. Lambert then recalled the figure of Knight of Blood Mist, whom he fought before. To buy some time for Gu to escape from Lambert, the swordsman in black armor fought against Lambert, despite losing one of his arms as a result. And the black armor before him was definitely that swordsman's black armor. The ominous mana that he felt was coming from that armor. This black armor was made of delrite, a special kind of metal that could restore its shape by sapping the mana of its wearer. Since the black-armored knight was crushed to bits under the rubble, common sense dictated that the Knight of Blood Mist had already been slain. And yet, why? There was no blood or remains. There was basically nothing inside the scorched armor. The contents of the armor had been emptied, as if there was nothing in there from the very beginning. But that's definitely impossible. In their previous encounter, Lambert had sliced off the left arm of the Knight of Blood Mist. That moment had convinced him that there was someone inside the armor. It wasn't impossible that he might come again to retrieve his armor, but since the contents had already left the armor, Lambert had no way to know what had happened after that. There was something strange about that armor. At that time, he suddenly realized something. Back when he was still alive, he had heard a story about walking, empty armor. It was from one of the kingdoms that perished during the 8 countries unification war, Laurel Kingdom. Balthier, the general of said kingdom, was rumored to be able to fight several hundred soldiers by himself in his final battle before being beheaded from his blind spot. But then, it was found out that his armor turned out to be empty. The country that crushed Laurel Kingdom had also vanished in the annals of history. This case made Lambert recall Balthier, the vanished general. But the Knight of Blood Mist's delrites should be something that belonged to Laurel Kingdom. If the Knight of Blood Mist was still alive, that black-armored knight might hold the secret of his weak point. But Lambert couldn't waste his time dragging said person out of his armor, nor did he have a way to do so. And the current situation wouldn't allow him to waste his time. At least, Lambert's magical power perception told him that there was no sign of the 8 wise men around here. Whether the inside of the black armor had already died or not, the body inside the armor at least had already left and was no longer in there. After pondering for a while, Lambert decided to leave. The more time he wasted in this place, the higher the likelihood of Cardinal Zebediah being assassinated by the 8 wise men. In the first place, the reason why Lambert visited the Holy City was to see with his own eyes the leader of the Inquisition squad. Until he visited the Holy City, Lambert did not have a good impression of the Inquisition squad. But only after he came to this city did he come to a realization that the Inquisition squad was a deterrence for Devil's Piper. Although they were a far cry from the 8 wise men, the overall power of both organizations had to be considered. If Cardinal Zebediah was assassinated, the Inquisition squad would be gone for sure. That was why he couldn't waste his time anymore. The center of the Holy City, the cathedral, had already turned into a vacant lot. The combat priests who protected the place had already died or became mangled corpses. Those eaten by the enhanced demonic insects lay lifeless on the floor. Lambert started examining the cathedral that reeked of death, looking for the secret passage that Cardinal Zebediah might have used to escape. Act 4 26, Rose of Subkingdom 2. Chapter 26, Rose of Subkingdom 2. A large hidden passage was dug right below the Holy City. Since the secret passage was a spider web of tunnels, there were numerous entrances. These entrances were thoroughly hidden so that one would not stumble upon them by accident. Even if the existence of the passages was discovered by accident, the inside was akin to a labyrinth. Only someone already familiar with the passage could navigate its walls. Currently, 10 people were walking inside that hidden passage. Those bastards. They tried to kill me along with this city. Too bad for them. My escape preparations are perfect. The old man in the back of the formation grumbled while wiping the drool on his lips with the back of his hand. The man's most outstanding feature was his hooked nose and squarish jaw. Cardinal Zebediah was the most distinguished figure in Heinstier and also the chief executive of the Inquisition squad. Had time allowed it, I really wish I could have crushed their eyes, cut off their limbs, and tied them up forever in an animal pen. I'll make sure to teach those bastards who they're trying to mess with. My children, kill every single one of them. Even if just one, kill those of Devil's Piper. Cardinal Zebediah laughed in a low voice. Stop fanning the situation, Cardinal. We're in front of many subordinates today. Moreover, knowing that the chain of command has been interrupted, we have to minimize the damage. Continuing the Inquisition squad without us, the 4 great sages, is too risky. A petite and thin old man walking diagonally behind Cardinal Zebediah rebutted his superior. The old man's name was Simon, the leader of the 4 great sages. His official position was as a bishop in Heinztier. He was acting as Cardinal Zebediah's escort in escaping the city. Trailing behind Cardinal Zebediah, Simon followed close behind, and behind him were 8 other sorcerers from the Inquisition squad. No need to fan the situation. Our raison d'etre is to eradicate those guys. Those filthy rats who always hide have finally shown themselves, and in our garden nonetheless. We can count this as a blessing, right? I sympathize with the sentiment. Unfortunately, we can't pay homage to those who sacrificed themselves inside the city once we leave. But it can't be helped. We have to survive to continue our mission. It's been a really long time since I felt this way. How many decades has it been since I felt this kind of feeling, I wonder? Cardinal Zebediah spoke passionately. That face was like that of a pure child, yet that smile was akin to the devil's. Yeah, the only way to show them a homage is to survive this disaster, or rather, from what is to come. This matter will be a wake-up call for those fools in the royal capital. To fight those guys, we have to become mad fanatics. That is what will describe us, the Inquisition squad. Finally, the royal capital will know that I was right all along. Cardinal Zebediah ignored Simon's remark. We will make another Inquisition squad in the center of the kingdom. We will put a huge restriction on the sorcerers outside. Anyone who dares to ignore that will suffer a living hell. In the name of divine punishment, we have to nip the danger in the bud. In that way, we can prevent the appearance of sorcerers like those guys. In that way, no one can oppose us. All to wash away the filth from this kingdom. This is a trial for Regio's kingdom to be reborn anew. Cardinal, halt. Cardinal Zebediah stopped his gait immediately. Simon passed by his superior's side, stopping and clasping his hands together upon arriving in front of his superior. A few seconds later, he turned around and faced Cardinal Zebediah. Cardinal, there are pursuers. It seems they came from the direction of the Earth Bird. Very few in the Inquisition squad know of this waterway. Does that mean there's a rat among us? Cardinal Zebediah's face cleared of all emotion. Then, he suddenly broke into laughter. No problem. We have you, Simon, here. No one can escape your god fist and mind eyes. I just regret that you can't go fight those people since you have to escort me. With your strength, you could tear their limbs, split their heads, and kill them in the most painful way. It's truly regretful. But their numbers are strange. Apparently, there are just a few of them, and they make up for the lack of numbers with insects. Good. The more there are, the more that are killed. So, how many thieves managed to sneak in? Using my mind eye, I sensed only 20. However, I believe there may be twice as many lurking in the dark. In addition, anyone familiar with this labyrinth is long gone, yet they were able to cut off the escape routes. Our enemies aren't just insects or undead, there are humans too. They indeed outnumber us. 40 lowlifes who have strayed from the proper path. I'm looking forward to their performance. Simon closed his eyes as if to remind Cardinal Zebediah. Cardinal, our main goal is to escape the holy city and survive. I know. However, do those filthy rats even qualify as opponents? I really want to see their faces when we turn the tables against them. Act 4:27, Rose of Subkingdom 3, Chapter 27, Rose of Subkingdom 3. Simon led Cardinal Zebediah's party as they ran inside the underground waterway to escape from their pursuers. But after Simon shut his eyes while confirming their surroundings, he stopped and shook his head. What's the matter, Simon? Cardinal, we're slowly being cornered. It seems they knew the layout of this underground passage. Simon said this to Cardinal Zebediah. The moment they heard those words, unrest spread amongst Simon's subordinates. Cardinal Zebediah kept silent, a cold glint appearing in his eyes. The underground passage was a way to protect the upper echelons of the church. Its very existence was top secret. Even within the Inquisition squad, only a select few knew of its existence. No matter what, none of them would betray the church. But I don't think the betrayer is among us. Devil's Piper has been the church's longtime enemy. They should have sorcerers whose names were erased from the annals of history. In short, they might have received the intel through brainwashing or by resurrecting a corpse. Hearing that, Cardinal Zebediah let out a satisfied chuckle. I see, that's true. That's really good news. Good news? If we manage to catch that sorcerer, those convenient spells should be available for us, right? With such convenient spells, controlling Regio's kingdom will be a breeze. Upon hearing Cardinal Zebediah's remark, Simon showed no reaction. but chills ran down his subordinates' spines. Sure enough, as widely acknowledged, the Inquisition squad fought taboo with taboo. And yet, some of them felt that Cardinal Zebediah's remark was a bit too much. Moreover, it wasn't because the Inquisition squad didn't have sorcery, rather, it was that the Cardinal himself, the leader of their faith, said such blasphemy in a roundabout way. Cardinal Zebediah looked at his subordinates. There's too many people in this kingdom who have forgotten their faith. As a result, sorcery can easily turn someone into a demon. That's why the tragedy keeps repeating over and over again. It's impossible to keep every single human in check. Only by the faith in the absolute judgment of God can true peace and good humans exist. Cardinal Zebediah clenched his fist as he spoke, looking really incensed. The current condition is still too lukewarm. Even though I showed them that we're trying to save this kingdom by executing sorcerers who commit taboos, none of the fools in the kingdom understand our noble goal. That's why I have to become the second coming of a saint and guide this kingdom. It's plausible, Cardinal. Simon bowed his head. His subordinates followed after their leader, bowing at once toward Cardinal Zebediah. The anger on the Cardinal's face vanished and was replaced with a warm smile. My apologies, I ended up blurting out my ideals in this kind of situation. So, Simon, are we going to take another route again? That's right. At this rate, we will be surrounded and outnumbered. Although I alone can easily break through this encirclement, considering your safety, I have to choose the shortest path with the least number of people. Thus, I have to confirm how many enemies we face. Simon said this and then pointed in one direction. That path? Sure, take 5 other people with you. Leave the rest as my bodyguards. The Cardinal's party continued on, following Simon from behind. After advancing in front of the group for a while, Simon mumbled, "Cardinal, it's about time." At that moment, 5 armed figures clad in robes came from the passage in front of them. I found Zebediah. Kill him. Simon closed his eyes, stamping his feet on the ground. At that moment, Simon's lithe body vanished from sight. Where the heads of the 2 in the vanguard suddenly twisted unnaturally, and their bodies were flung into the wall. Simon kicked them to the side. And just like that, his fingers jabbed the third person's eyes. Using his other palm, he struck his opponent's chest, rupturing their chest. The 5th person tried to attack, but Simon flicked their blade with his finger. The sword spun around, penetrating its wielder's abdomen. Ooh, as expected of Simon. Those pigs are nothing against you. Cardinal Zebediah laughed heartily. Simon then grabbed the neck of the man whose eyeballs he poked and the only one left alive. You in an excited state. Your strength is quite abnormal, but you guys are just amateurs. You guys are too weak to be the vanguard of Devil's Piper. Mind I allowed Simon to discern information from elsewhere using mana perception. The art didn't have a blind spot since it didn't depend on sight. It also allowed him to peek into his enemy's mind, albeit only on a shallow level. Although Mind Eye was one of the Hind's faith techniques, there was no other person at an inhuman level like Simon. In addition to Mind Eye, Simon was also hailed as the God Fist. He almost never relied on brute force. He simply made full use of his body and mana, and his ancient martial arts transformed his body into a blur nearly impossible to perceive. His ancient martial arts, Mind Eye, and his lithe frame allowed him to see his surroundings. He tricked his opponent's sight and defeated them without letting them know what just had happened. It was extremely simple yet powerful. In fact, ever since Simon created this combat style, he never suffered from any injury during combat. Due to his achievements in 13 Heavenly Silk Enlightenment Method, God Fist, and Mind Eye, he became the leader of the 4 Great Sages. 13 Heavenly Silk Enlightenment Method was a training method in which the trainee sat on top on a rock with both of their eyelids sewn shut for 13 years. A normal man wouldn't be able to hold on for 7 days due to hunger. It was a crazy training method which forced the trainee to brush death. Interruption in the middle was out of question. More than 300 people of the Hind's faith challenged this training method in the past and died. Simon completed that 13 Heavenly Silk Enlightenment Method and became the 3rd person to gain the Mind Eye, just like Saint Hines himself. Let's see what you look like. Simon uncovered the robe which covered the man's face and saw that the assailant was a truly common-looking man. Kill me. I have nothing to tell you, the man whispered. Zedzael. Hearing that voice, one of Simon's subordinates spoke with a trembling voice. Your acquaintance? He is one of our believers. He disappeared from Heinz a while ago, But, the new project, Journey of the Childhood Friend Who Got Betrayed by Sword Saint *. You can read the advanced chapter by clicking the image below and become my patron *. Bonus. All translated chapters of Icom and Tensei available in my Patreon for $1 *. Ko-fi exclusive content is available for $10 subscriber *. If you just want to support me or have a particular novel in mind that you'd like to request, please join my Ko-fi or Patreon. The links are below. Once again, thank you More Clan.